Uchiha Uzumaki Naruto. Hiruzen looked out as those around him. He saw the faces of the people he was now charged to lead. The people who he must lead through the darkness. He had only seen such darkness in the eyes of shinobi during one of the wars, but then what they had just been through had been worse than war. War occurs far away. This attack penetrated the heart of Konoha. The fox had taken so much, so many were dead, so much destroyed, and their hero was gone. Minato Namikaze was gone. Even from the civilian side, whose eyes were usually filled with bliss from their ignorance from the real world, had pain in their eyes and cheeks that had stained their tears. Hiruzen looked down and saw eyes that were filled with innocence. He held a baby in his hands. The boy's name was Naruto. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, the son of the hero of the leaf. Minato, I'm so sorry you'll never get to see him grow up, was all Hiruzen could think. Hiruzen never realized when he said this that the baby he looked at now would one day become a hero greater than his father. Let us begin, came Hiruzen's voice. It was sharp and empty. He had retaken his place as the third Hokage, but he didn't want to. This one his place anymore. This was Minato's. The people of the council listened to him, and everyone quieted. The room had already been silent, dead silent. It was a loud silence, though. He could almost hear the tears of Konoha itself crying with its people. I need a full damage report including death tolls and damage to property from all the clans, regular ninja, and civilians. Also for the time being, D-rank missions will be suspended. Also Tsunade, Jiraiya, and myself will be taking full control of the academy by creating a new curriculum, which will focus on Fuinjutsu, medical ninjutsu, ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and more advanced taijutsu. This is necessary for the next generations must be strong. We can't and won't appear weak, finished the Hokage. He saw nods from around the table, but no one listened. They were more concerned with the child that was currently being supported by their Hokage. Their thoughts were suddenly given a voice. Hokage-sama, who is the child you are holding? Mabuki Haruno asked. She was given her seat. It was a hereditary seat. She inherited it from her recently deceased mother, who was widely considered a bitch. This is the one who saved the village hidden in the leaves. This is boy. On the day of his birth has sacrificed more than almost any shinobi has ever given for his village. He is who the fourth sealed the kyubi into. With this, the civilians looked terrified, while the shinobi clan heads, who knew that the kyubi could not be killed and had no fantasies of its death, nodded in understanding. This is the heir to the Uzumaki and Namikaze. He is also the boy who sealed the negotiations with Suna. He is to marry the Kazekage's eldest child. He is the savior of the leaves. We must kill the boy now before he kills us all and destroys the V. Many civilians began, but they could not finish their sentence as the room was engulfed in killer intent by the two men that were usually the calmest. Fugaku Uchiha and Hayashi Hyuga, the newest clan heads of Konoha's most powerful and prominent clans, and the Minato's teammates. You threatened to kill the son of my former teammate again, and there will be one more on the civilian death toll, Fugaku said. I concur, stated Hayashi. They both spoke with no emotion, making the threat feel impersonal and all the more deadly. Now everyone relax. The boy will not be killed, and no one who does not have my special permission will speak of it outside of this room. It is an S-rank secret. Whoever speaks of it without my permission will die, and their family exiled. I asked the civilian council to leave, which includes Danzo, Hamaru, and Koharu. The civilians departed the room, many sneering, including the elders. Minato left a letter for all of you. Here it goes. Dear friends, I have sealed half of the kyubi into Naruto. The seal I have used will slowly filter its chakra into Naruto. Now I would like for someone to take him in, but please let him, when he becomes a shinobi, let him rebuild his clan, and let him keep the Uzumaki name, at least adding yours. Also, Kushina wants whoever adopts him to let him play with Mikoto and Hitomi's kids. She said they always talked about it as Team Tsunade. I have instructed Jiraiya to give him my jutsu scrolls when he is 8, but those are for him, not the clan that adopts him. Lastly, as per our agreement with Suna, he will spend 3 months there, and Temari will spend 3 months here until she is 9. When he becomes a genin of Konoha, make him aware of the marriage. He will have to have CRA, and the Kazekage understands this. 360000 Rio will be given to Naruto adoptive parents every year. Thank you. Minato. So is anyone interested? The third asked. I can't. Hitomi is pregnant and is having difficulties. It would be too hard for us, and the stress would not be good for her body, Hayashi said. He looked solemn and saddened at this, like he was unable to help the man who had become his friend. I will do it. Mikoto and I already have Sasuke, so it will be difficult raising them both. But since Hayashi understandably can, I will. Spoke Fugaku, who was internally moved knowing that his friend and teammate wrote that letter knowing that he was going to die, sacrificing his life for the village. I know Minato would have been happy with you as a guardian. You were his close friend. All of you know this. Naruto may know of Kushina, but not of Minato, at least not until he is made a jounin because of Minato's enemies. IWA would have an army here yesterday if they knew. He may know of the QB only when it is necessary, and I will leave that decision for Fugaku. So if you would sign here as his guardian Fugaku, and you here as his alternate guardian Hayashi, he will be known as Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha. You may both be able to tell your clans, but warn them of the consequences of telling others. They both signed, and the meeting was dismissed as Fugaku left to tell the news to his clan. He hoped they would take it well. At the Uchiha compound, 8 p.m. The Uchiha compound was more of a village within the village. They were surrounded by a forest. Only the front of it touched the village. They had shops and restaurants as well as homes. They even had a private training ground. The Uchiha clan compound was the envy of all Konoha's clans. Fugaku had told the clan to be waiting for him at the center of the village, in the hall of meetings. He saw the child in his arms and knew that his life would be hard, but he promised himself the Uchiha would support him. He proceeded to walk into the meeting hall. Everyone stood at attention. He let them sit. Their fatigue was obvious. It wasn't even fatigue of body, but of spirit. He put aside his thought and began to speak. Everyone is here, so I will begin. Today, he corrected himself, looking at his wife and their 2 children, have adopted a child. Naruto Uzumaki Namiki's Uchiha. He is to be the new head of the Uzumaki Namiki's clan at 16, but until then he is the son of the head of the Uchiha clan. He was the son of the 4th and is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I expect you all to treat him as you would Sasuke or Itachi or face the consequences, and know this, I will not simply allow an Uchiha to be banished. Now you may not speak a word of this to anyone outside of the Hyuga clan or our own, and never mention the name Namikaze or Kyuubi in his presence. Is this understood? The crowd said hi. Fugaku nodded and allowed them to return to their homes to sleep. They knew their leader would never put them in harm's way. Fugaku had already sent a clan member to add another crib for the nursery. He and Itachi walked home. Mikoto had left earlier to feed Sasuke. They were silent in their short walk, and when they arrived at the house, Fugaku gave the baby to Mikoto and went to shower. Oka-san, can I hold him? Said a 6-year-old Itachi, who had just enrolled at the ninja academy. Of course, Itachi-chan. He is your Ototo after all, said Mikoto as he handed Naruto to him. Just be careful, she said as he went to his room, leaving Itachi sitting in the nursery with just Sasuke in the other crib. Naruto began to cry, but Itachi hushed him and said, just as he said to Sasuke on the day of Naruto's birth, "Hush, Naruto-chan, I will protect you and Sasuke no matter what." And with that he put Naruto into his crib and went to bed. Itachi placed Naruto in his crib, turned off the lights, and said good night. That night, in Konoha, with all the fires put out and the lights of every home off, the village hidden in the leaves was hidden to all but the moon. The next week, Itachi had finally started school again. The academy had been on the priority list of building to be rebuilt. They also had a new instructor, Shichim, a former jonin. However, as his eyes wandered Konoha's busy streets, he was only focusing on helping his mother with Naruto and Sasuke, and the second was training so he could graduate before his 7th birthday. He would be the first since Hitaki Kakashi. He made his way to his home as he was now inside his family compound. He walked in the front door and heard loud crying, both from Naruto and Sasuke. He rushed to the children's room as he didn't hear his mother's customary greeting. He immediately entered attack mode. As his eyes looked through the door's entryway, he saw a ninja in all black. In the man's arms was the boy he had already thought of as his brother. Itachi had never felt such pure fury. He would not let this man escape with his brother. He would keep the promise he had made just a week ago. Itachi ran at the man. He was limited with his attacks as he wouldn't risk injuring Naruto. The enemy ninja didn't have the same limits. and went for a blow at Itachi's stomach. The boy was pushed back several feet. He now felt fear, not for himself, but for his small brother. That's when it happened. His vision became much clearer, and his body felt full of power. He had one word come to mind. Sharingan. So this is what the Sharingan does. I don't have time to worry about getting the Sharingan now. I must keep my promise. I must save Naruto, thought Itachi. He steeled his glaze and looked the man in the eyes. You have no idea what you have done. Nobody will harm my brother, said Itachi. Demonic illusion. Crow's attack. He said, speaking calmly. He had already known the C-rank Jinjutsu and knew the Sharingan would make it stronger. He caught Naruto and knocked out the man who was hopefully still dreaming of crows attacking him and pecking him apart. He then put a Jinjutsu on Naruto. Heavenly illusions, butterfly dreams. After putting Naruto in his crib, Itachi tied up the man and got one of the chakra seals his father had gotten him and put it on the man's back. He picked up his mom and put her on the couch. He hadn't wanted to worry the other members of the clan, so he decided to wait for his two-san. About 20 minutes later, the man woke up, but he couldn't move because of the way Itachi tied and taped the man up. Fugaku came home, and Itachi told him what happened. Fugaku called in 2 guards and told them to guard Itachi, Sasuke, Naruto, and the still sleeping Mikoto. He also asked Hiashi if he could send over a guard because the Byakugan was great for long-range surveillance, so if anything happened the Hyuga guard could get back up without being noticed. He then took the man who tried to kidnap his son to the third. Fugaku, I am sorry for what happened, and I will assign an Umbu guard to trail Itachi and another to watch Sasuke and Naruto. I believe Kakashi and another Umbu will watch the boys, but will also do missions, so they'll be on rotation, and Yamato should do to trail Itachi, since I don't want him to leave the village just yet. But if this man has a certain seal on his tongue, I believe I may actually be able to end the man responsible for this, said the third, and Fugaku nodded, untaping the man's mouth and telling him to stick out his tongue, which he did. The third saw the seal. Hexagram curse. Concealment revealed. The third said, removing the mark. Who gave you this mission? Danzo was all the man said. Hiruzen restrained himself from using his famed bloodless killing technique, as he would use this man as evidence, and then told Fugaku there would be a complete council meeting tomorrow. With that, Fugaku went home checking on Itachi and told him he was very proud of him for protecting his brother and activating his Sharingan. Tusen, I promised Naruto and Sasuke I would protect them. All I did was keep my promise, said Itachi. His father smiled, never being more proud of anything his son said, and told him to rest. Next morning, Hokage-sama, if I may ask why you have called this council meeting? Asked Shikaka. He thought that these council meetings were troublesome, especially ones at 6 in the morning. While Narasen, a leaf shinobi, attempted to attack Naruto, replied the third, but the boy's elder brother was able to stop him. Was the man caught? Asked Danzo in a slightly disappointed manner. He was rather upset that a 7-year-old stopped a member of his root, even with a Sharingan. Unfortunately, no, Danzo-san, replied Fugaku. With that, Danzo gave the slightest smirk. At least the man wasn't foolish enough to be caught, but then again the seal would stop him from talking if he was. No one could break my seal. The meeting was called to order when Koharu arrived. For the first order of business, said Hiruzen before he paused. Several Umbu walked into the room. The one leading the group of 4 spoke. Danzo Shimura, you are under arrest for ordering the kidnapping of Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha. This council is your judge and jury. If you attempt to escape, we have been given authority to use lethal force. Danzo was more than shocked. How could this be? There is no way they removed the seal. You can't do that. He is an elder of the village, shrieked the local harpy, known as Mabuki Haruno, especially not for some demon brat. This is a ninja village civilian, and you hold no power, only the Hokage does, so never tell him what he can and can't do. Know this: if you ever calls Naruto a demon again, I am not against assassination missions, said Hiashi. He couldn't stand the Haruno scum. Bring him in, Hiruzen said. Then another Umbu brought the kidnapper in. Also, Hiashi, if you would please use your Byakugan to see if he is telling the truth. Of course, Hokage-sama, said Hiashi. Were you involved in an attempt to kidnap Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha? Asked Hiruzen. Yes, responded the man. Did you act on orders from a superior? Asked Hiruzen again. Yes, said the man again. He had the emotion trained out of him, but you could still hear a tinge of disgust. "Who was your superior?" he asked for the last time. "Danzo Shimura," answered the man. "All the statements made were truthful," said Hayashi. "As the Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure, your judge and jury, I hereby sentence these two men to death for treasonous activity that undermined the authority of the Hokage. Their sentence is to be carried out immediately," the Hokage said. Then the two Umbu quickly snapped their necks and severed their cervical spines. The men died, and that was the last time anyone said the name Danzo in the council room. "The meeting is dismissed," uttered the third. No one spoke, and the room was left silent as the Umbu removed the bodies. They would later be burned. They would have no graves, and their names would not go on any monuments. For no matter your station or past glories, the crime of treason during peace or wartime was inexcusable. The only exceptions were cases like the White Fang, where the treason was only technical in nature and their behavior exemplified the will of fire. And while the White Fang had no nameplate on any memorials, he was honored with a grave. 5 years later. "Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun, come here please," called Mikoto. She now sat in the living room. Her two youngest children were now 5 years old. This age of 5 meant a large change. Naruto, and thus Sasuke. The contract with Suna would begin to take effect. Right now, she was planning to explain to her two sons that the 3 children of the Kazekage would begin visiting and that Naruto would begin spending time in Suna. "Yes, Ka-san," both boys said in unison as they entered the room. Their mother signaled for them to sit down. The boys did as they were told. "Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, I need to talk to you both," Mikoto said, smiling. She knew that all children had a natural paranoia when their parents said that, so she decided to have a bit of fun with them. "Yes, Ka-san," said Naruto. He was unsure and a bit scared their mother was mad at them. But ever the outspoken child, it was his duty to speak. "Well, Naruto-kun, before you were born, there was a final treaty made with Suna, so they would remain our allies. You see, you are a child of noble birth, and the Kazekage wanted to have some influence over Konoha so they wouldn't turn against Suna. So the leadership of Konoha, in agreement with Suna, decided that Naruto would marry the Kazekage's daughter Temari." Mikoto paused to give the boys' growing minds time to process what she had just said. "Mommy, when do I have to marry her, and when do I get to meet her?" Naruto said shyly, for the first time in his life. Thought Mikoto mentally. She had never seen Naruto shy before. If there was one thing Mikoto knew about Naruto, is that he had gained his mother's personality. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, you won't be married until one of you becomes a Chunin. And the reason I'm telling you this is that you'll be meeting them very soon. One part of the treaty is that Temari will be spending the first 3 months of each year here, and then you will be spending the following 3 months in Suna." She said this very sadly. She would be missing her son for 3 months. Fugaku had also suggested that Sasuke go with him sometimes. 3 months, that's a long time for Nai-san to be gone, Ka-san, said Sasuke quietly. "I know, Sasuke-kun, but it's just one way we must serve our village. Okay, both of you?" she asked, knowing they really didn't have any choice in the matter. "Yes, Ka-san," said both boys. "Now both of you go to bed. The group is arriving tomorrow, and both of you need to be well rested so you can be on their best behavior," said Mikoto, smiling at the two boys. She was a proud mother today, just like every other day. Next day, the dawn in the forests of Konoha was a beautiful thing. Singular beams of light streamed through the leaves of the tree. The ladybugs and birds moved around the ladder, sung songs that could put a smile on anyone's face. Well, almost anyone. A group of around 9 people walked in the forest on their way to Konoha. Only one of the non-bodyguards wore a smile. The Kazekage, he was a man of slightly less than average height, but he was extremely powerful. That wasn't why he smiled, though. He smiled because today was the beginning of the treaty that would save Suna from economic depression. He was slightly upset, though, for his daughter was currently upset. She would grow out of it, he decided. This Naruto boy will be a nice lad. They'll be happily married, and if not, well, the sacrifice had been made for the village. The Kazekage, his daughter, and their guards made their way to the entrance of Konoha. Temari didn't like the reason she had to come here, but she did like the trip. All the birds and trees were beautiful in her opinion. The group of people walked until the sun was at the center of the sky, and they could make out the gates of Konoha. At the gates of Konoha waited 8 people. the third fire shadow, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Konoha Council of Elders, consisting of Hamaru and Koharu, as well as the Uchiha head family, Fugaku, Mikoto, Itachi, Sasuke, and the all-important Naruto. The Kazekage and company arrived at the gate, and so began the ritual of receiving an honored ally to your village. Hokage Dano, may we gain entrance to your village? Asked the Kazekage. He was never one for such irrelevant formalities, and he knew none of the Kage were. He pondered why the 5 most powerful people in the ninja world allowed such silly trivialities to continue on, annoying the next generation. Then he remembered as he was received his welcoming village elders, the conservatives of the ninja world and sticklers for traditions. Hokage-sama, Kazekage-sama asked for permission to enter the village, said the 2 village elders in unison, as was their role. Let Kazekage Dano and his party enter the village hidden in leaves, said the Hokage. As he did, he hoped to Kami-sama that the Kazekage wouldn't be personally delivering his daughter every time the Hokage would kill somebody. Kazekage same. It is the will of the Hokage that you be allowed entrance, replied the elders in unison once again. The Kazekage and his party then entered the village, thus allowing for a direct line of conversation between the heads of state. While this was going on, 5 different sets of eyes analyzed the Kazekage's daughter. She returned only Naruto's stare. She had seen his picture and thus knew her fiancé's face. For the 2 Uchiha parents, the girl appeared headstrong and well taken care of, exactly what one would expect of a girl of such high station. Itachi thought it was funny that both children had blonde hair and decided to get to know the girl before making judgments. Sasuke thought she was pretty but decided that she better be nice to his Nisan. Naruto felt the same way and simply hoped she was a kind person. Temari, on the other hand, analyzed Naruto. She was less accepting of the arrangement but wasn't successful finding fault with the boy. His eyes and hair she quickly decided were his best features, not that she really knew what features were. She also decided that he could be strong since he had good posture and stood up perfectly straight. He smiled at her, and she decided it would be a good idea to smile back. In fact, she was so taken up with the analysis of this boy that she almost missed her father's direction. Come Temari-chan, we are going to have lunch with the Hokage and the Uchiha, so we can discuss some things and you and Naruto can begin to speak with each other. With that, the elders took their leave and the rest of the group made their way to the Hokage's dining hall. The next year. Goodbye Temari-chan, Kankuro-kun, and Gara-kun, chorused the 3 heirs as their friends left. Temari had continued coming to Konoha as per the treaty, but this was one of the times her brothers came along. The little group had become close friends much to their parents' pleasure and had even begun to correspond with letters. This also did wonders for Gara, who found 2 good friends in Naruto and Sasuke. He had noticed that Naruto received the same looks as him, but refrained from speaking on the matter. Hinata had become good friends with Sasuke and Naruto. They had begun playing with each other when they could barely talk. Naruto drove Sasuke and Hinata to be more outspoken. The parents were happy with this as well. Right now, Fugaku walked them as they dropped Hinata off. The Hyuga compound was relatively close to the Uchiha compound. They said their goodbyes as Hinata walked inside the safety of her compound, or at least it was safe now. Around 6 or 7 months ago, during the peace negotiations, a man had broken into her room and attempted to kidnap her. She wasn't so nervous or scared when the man kidnapped her, so she had screamed at the Kumonin that had attacked her. Hisashi heard the scream first and came to her rescue. Luckily for the Hyuga, instead of killing the man, he simply knocked him unconscious. This helped the relationship between Hisashi and Hisashi, allowing Neji and Hinata to become closer as cousins. This was evident when either of them went through trying times, like when Neji had comforted Hinata when her mother passed away. At the Uchiha compound. Boys, go inside and put on your gear. Today we start ninjutsu and weapons training in addition to taijutsu, strength, endurance, and speed, said their father. He was extremely proud of his 2 young sons/students. They were progressing awfully well with their training. Yes, that's so cool too, San. Sasuke, now we can be as strong as Nizan. Naruto yelled excitedly. Yeah, Naruto, let's go, said Sasuke. Naruto came outside first. He wore the clothes his uncle, Ero-sennin, had given him. He absolutely adored his ninja uniform, as if there was one thing Naruto it was gifts from people he cared about. He wore black ninja shorts, and he also wore a black long-sleeve shirt. On top of that, he wore a ripped short-sleeved hooded coat with a thick black trim on it. On the left was the Uchiha clan symbol, and the right was Uzumaki clan symbol, and in the middle was the symbol of Konoha. Sasuke followed wearing gray pants and a gray shirt with the Uchiha symbol on the front, and the back was Konoha's symbol. The two boys looked like himself and Naruto's father when they were that age, thought Fugaku. Both of you are already prodigies based on your chakra reserves, taijutsu, endurance, speed, and strength. Now we'll see how you do with ninjutsu. Here, use these pieces of paper and channel your chakra into them, said a curious Fugaku. He wondered if the kyuubi had in some way affected Naruto's nature affinities. Yes, Oto-san, said Naruto and Sasuke in unison as they both did as they were told. The result of this test surprised Fugaku more than when Mikoto told him she was pregnant with Sasuke. Naruto and Sasuke both had the same thing occurred, which the adoptive brothers found in their own words, awesome. Their pieces of paper sliced into four. The first piece caught on fire, the second turned to mud, and the third became wet, and the fourth crumpled. Impossible was all Fugaku could say. To have 5 natural affinities wasn't prodigious, it was the stuff of legends. Naruto, have you and Sasuke ever made a blood pact? It sounded simple and foolish, but it was the only thing that Hayashi could see, allowing the kyuubi to also alter Sasuke's genes as well. Yes, about trying to be as strong as Itachi. Naruto responded in a confused way. He wasn't sure what a blood pact had to do with ninjutsu, which was all he was really concerned with right now. Both of you, we need to talk, said Fugaku as they went inside. Naruto, the day you were born, a demon fox, that we call kyuubi, attacked the village. To protect the village, your father sealed it inside of you. I want you both to know, son, you're not evil, and anyone who says that will answer to me. He said this in an attempt to reassure Naruto. This would be a lot to take in. You can't tell anyone outside the clan we talked about this, okay? Both boys nodded. Now we're going to try and talk to the kyuubi, so Sasuke held Naruto's hand. The boys did as they were told, and then Fugaku said, viewing seal, mirror to glass. This jutsu, which Jiraiya had taught him, allowed a group of people to enter Naruto's seal. The 3 of them appeared in a large forest that was extremely dark. There was only one source of light at its center. Fugaku could see the boys' fear, so he made 2 water clones and had them put the boys on their shoulders. They made their way through the forest in silence. Then they came upon a clearing in the center of which was a traditional Japanese building with a dojo sign on the top. The clones put the boys down and like water seeped down into the ground. So here the 3 of them stood outside a dojo, unsure of what to do. A woman stepped to the door of this dojo and began speaking. Hello, Fugaku-san, Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun. It seems you have all finally come to visit me. There are some important things we must discuss, I'm sure you know. Even as she finished speaking, Fugaku had still not gotten over one devastating truth. You're a woman, said Fugaku. Now, Fugaku Uchiha was by no means a sexist, but he was still in shock that a female fox had been the force behind the destruction and death of a third of his village. Yes, I am. Will that be a problem? She growled. She hated when men assumed that the kyuubi no kitsune was a male. Fugaku gave a quick response that took the form of a head shake. Good. My name isn't kyuubi, first of all. It is Kurama. I would appreciate it if you address me as such. Now I will explain how I came to attack Konoha and the answers you seek in regards to the changes I made to the children. It was the 10th of October. She began. She continued explaining how the masked man had put her under his control after she was ripped from Kushina's seal. She then paused to give herself a break, but alas, a question came. I remember you saying something about changing the children. What was that about? Fugaku asked. The kyuubi groaned on the inside, but continued nonetheless. That is simple. You see, I knew this masked man would one day rise again, and there currently aren't powerful enough ninja to stop them, and so I changed the natural affinities of Sasuke and Naruto. I also created a dojutsu for Naruto, as well as altering the existing dojutsus of Hinata and Sasuke. I call the enhanced version of Hinata's Byakugan the Byakugan no Kitsune. It enhances the user by allowing them to control chakra flow by using the style on these scroll. Also, it allows complete 360 vision, and it is always on once you activate it for the first time. It is always on, though the depth and X-ray vision can be adjusted. It also costs you no chakra when you use it. She paused here, giving Fugaku time to synthesize the information, but seeing his anxiousness grow, she began anew. As for Sasuke's Sharingan, it is known as the Universal Mangekyo Sharingan. It is the perfect Sharingan with the powers of EMS with the ability to create things out of thin air and less chakra cost, and it will activate in a couple years when the DNA is finished modifying. As for Naruto, he has the Baijigen. He will be able to seal things without having to contact them, a look and shoot kind of thing. Also use of Yin and Yang chakra. Lastly, he can awaken bloodlines as well as copy them, but he can only use one at a time. I will also note that these new bloodlines will be recessively passed down to their children. This means Hinata and Sasuke will become the most powerful individuals their respective clans have ever seen. It means that Naruto will be one of the greatest shinobi since the original god of shinobi, if he doesn't surpass him. Fugaku said with a high level of awe, these children would have the power to save or destroy the world. He decided there that he would make sure it was the previous. At that they left unexpectedly, and Fugaku alerted the Hokage and Hiashi. 2 years later, Naruto, Hinata, and Sasuke trained hard with Fugaku, Hiruzen, and Hiashi, and Jiraiya. Their new abilities remained a secret from everyone else though. As the 2 years passed, the skills of the 3 8-year-olds had grown exponentially. Now though there would be a lull in the rate of growth. Why? The Konoha Ninja Academy. It didn't matter to the 3 blossoming shinobi. They were excited to meet new and interesting friends. The sun rose, and its light made its way into the bedroom of Naruto and Sasuke's bedroom. They were extremely excited for this day, first day at the academy. They really wanted to be there early, so as soon as they realized that today was the day, they shot out of bed. They then proceeded to run to the kitchen and take a seat at the dining table. Their mother had waffles ready for them, and laughed quietly as she saw her sons dig in. The boys weren't concerned though. You see, the boys were only focused on their older brother who had walked into the kitchen shortly after them. Itachi Onisan, the boys yelled. Itachi had been going on 2 or 3 missions every week. As an Umbu at 13, he was hardly ever around to see his brothers or family. In a rare moment like this where he did, he was extremely happy. What? Did you two think I would miss my brothers before their first day at the academy? Itachi said, ruffling both of the boys' hair. He loved his 2 little brothers more than his clan, even more than the village he was sworn to protect. Thanks, Itachi, and we have to go now, Naruto said. He was dejected that he would have to leave his older brother. I'll walk you 2 there, Itachi said. At that, both of them were happy. They would look cooler than everyone else if Itachi walked them there. Yes, Sasuke and Naruto spoke in unison. The boys made their ways to the academy, walking together ahead of their brother. Most of the civilians knew by now not to bother Naruto when he walked with his mother, father, or older brother. Today, though, some of them decided to glare at him anyway. These glares were met by Itachi, who had his 3-tomo Sharingan activated. The civilians rushed away in fear. If there was one thing a person shouldn't do, it was a bother Naruto in front of his overprotective older brother. The boys walked into the academy after Itachi waved them goodbye. Irika introduced himself and began his lecture. Today we're learning about Konoha's clans. It just so happens that we have someone from almost all major clans, so I'll allow them to introduce their clans to the class. Irika said, we'll go in this alphabetical order. I am Aburame Shino, said a boy of normal height. He wore shorts and a coat with a hood he kept down at all times. I am of the Aburame clan. We are known for our use of chakra-devouring Kikachu bugs in battle. We breed our bugs, and they live in our bodies. Shino finished. The civilians of the class had a disgusted look on their face. Those of clans knew of the Aburame prowess and were undisturbed. I am a Kimichi Choji, said the boy with spiky, brown hair and swirl marks on his cheeks. He had a more robust physique like his other members of his clan. We use techniques that enlarge parts of our bodies to attack. My clan is also famous for my father's inclusion in the formation of Inoshikacho. Choji then looked away sadly as a couple of the civilian girls commented on his size. I am Hyuga Hinata, a member of the Hyuga clan. We are one of the strongest clans of Konoha, known for the Byakugan. We, along with the Uchiha, hold the only bloodline as well as dojutsu in Konoha, Hinata said in her tight white and purple jacket. She wasn't self-conscious of her development, and so she wore a simple jacket with her clan logo on the back. I am Kiba of the Inuzuka. We are known for our tracking abilities as well as our dog companions," said the boy who smelled like dogs. He had marks of teeth and a puppy on his head. Some of the civilians talked about how cute the dogs. "We use shadows and my dad was an Inoshikacho," said the Nara boy. He didn't say it in a mysterious way that would take too much energy. He said it in a much more lazy way. That's all, he was lazy. "We are of the Uchiha. We are a clan of both shinobi and civilians. We have the dojutsu known as Sharingan," said Sasuke in the ninja garbs he had worn since he was 5. "Our clan also helped the Senju found Konoha." Naruto finished for Sasuke, also wearing the same ninja garb. "You're not a real Uchiha Yubaka," yelled the harpy in training known as Sakura. "Shut up, and that's my last name, you clan less civilian." Naruto didn't usually get mad, and he definitely didn't hate people who didn't have clans. For example, he loved Tuchi and Ayam from the ramen stand he frequented, but he hated when people said he wasn't a real Uchiha. "Huh, and why should I?" My mom said, "I don't have to respect you." My mom said, "I don't have to," screamed Haruno. "Then listen to me and silence yourself while we continue our lesson, Sakura," said Irika. Sakura knew better than to argue with her sensei, so she just shut up. Ino finished the lesson, and since it was the first day, Irika dismissed them after lunch. The two boys walked Hinata home and turned toward the compound. They ran to the compound, wanting to tell their mother how their first day of school had gone. The boys just stood at the gate staring out. They were in shock. Everyone was dead. They saw Itachi on the floor and ran toward him. "Onisin, what happened?" asked Naruto, sniveling. He and Sasuke had lost all their family. "Madara is alive. He came back to kill us. Don't avenge us, my brothers. Break the curse of hatred. Love, don't hate." "Sasuke," Naruto said Itachi before he died. That was the moment Naruto unlocked his Baijigen. It was the first time he had really lost someone. He and Sasuke knelt over their older brother crying. And when Naruto put his arm over his brother, he had accidentally activated his brother's Sharingan. The boys cried until they passed out from grief. The next day, the boy found themselves in the Hyuga compound. They came out of the room they were in and went to the dining room. They had spent a lot of time in Hayashi's house with Hinata. They found Hinata, Hayashi, and Hanabi in the dining room. "Hayashi Ajisen, why are we here?" asked Naruto, sad about what happened yesterday, but also remembering what his brother had said about not hating. Sasuke had felt the same sadness, but also remembered what their brother had said. "Naruto, Sasuke, after what happened yesterday, they didn't want you two to stay by yourselves. I decided to take you in until you are Genin, and then you can move back into the Uchiha compound." The boys nodded in understanding and went to school with Hinata, while Hayashi went to the council meeting. In the council room, everyone had arrived, and they were quiet. "Let us begin. Sasuke will now also have the CRA enacted upon him. We have selected to put Sasuke and Naruto in the care of Hayashi." Naruto and Sasuke didn't talk to anybody at the academy that day. Eventually, they lightened up in the academy, and later on they began talking to people in the coming weeks. They had a normal academy and home life. In the next years, the Dojutsu trio were at the top of the academy. Graduation day. Naruto woke up a little before his brother. He decided to try what Hinata had shown him yesterday and make boiled eggs. Hinata was trying to show the boys how to cook since they would be living on their own. You could say he succeeded in his attempt to make them. That is, if you don't mid pieces of eggshell stuck onto your egg. His brother woke up and choked down the breakfast his brother had made. Naruto and Sasuke both prepared for their last official day of school and then waited for Hinata just outside of the gates. Hinata came out and greeted the boys as they made their way to school. As they walked, they ignored the stares and glares of the ignorant villagers. When they reached the classroom, they entered and took their seats. "Okay, class. Today you will be taking the final part of your exam, ninjutsu. The class rankings are as such so far. 1. Sasuke Uchiha 1. Naruto Uchiha 1. Hinata Hyuga 1. Shino Aburame 3. Sakura Haruno 4. Kiba Inuzuka 5. Choji Akimichi 6. Nara Shikamaru 7. Ino Yamanaka. We will go in that order for the exam." The exams were finished by 3 o'clock that day, and the class rankings remained the same. "Ino is not dead, last some random civilian is." "Wow, we all made first place," said Naruto with his usual happy nature. "Yeah, but I mean we were trained by a Sannin, so it really wasn't fair not to mention our eyes." replied Sasuke. Well, we all agreed not to use our eyes, said Hinata. Anyway, you guys want to go get something to eat? Okay, the two boys responded in unison. The group went on to eat at Korean barbecue, much to the displeasure of a certain blonde-haired boy. Not that the other two hadn't grown to like ramen, it was just that you had to eat other foods once in a while. The group sat down for their midday meal talking about their classmates, when suddenly an umbu appeared stating that the Hokage requested the boys' presence in his office. The boys nodded and the umbu left. The boys paid for the bill. Telling Hinata goodbye, the boys went on into the village towards the Hokage tower. Hi, we have a meeting with the Hokage, Naruto told the receptionist. Go on in. The receptionist responded uncaringly. Thanks, both boys responded simultaneously as they went into the room. Hi Hokage-san, Naruto said as the boys came into the Hokage's view. Oh Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, I'm glad to see the both of you. Now that you are Chunin, there are certain things that you must learn of, the Hokage told the two boys. But don't we still have to take the second test? Sasuke asked. You do, but I have confidence in the both of you. So I will tell you today. The Hokage replied smiling. Now have either of you heard of the CRA? Asked the elderly, but still incredibly powerful man. No, replied them both. The CRA is something that the council imposed. It stands for Clan Restoration Act. Its main purpose is to ensure the continuity of bloodlines like the Sharingan or the Byakugan, said the Hokage before he was interrupted. What does this have to do with us? Asked a certain blonde impatient ninja. If you would let me continue. The boy nodded, hearing the slight agitation in the old man's voice. The CRA is enacted when someone is the last wielder of a bloodline. The CRA has three parts to it. The first is forced polygamy, or having multiple wives in the CRA. The person has 4 wives. The second part is the lowering of the marrying age to 14, or whenever the person makes Chunin. The last part is accommodation, which basically means the village provides you with a compound. Now there are rules to the CRA as well, such as having to be married to 4 people by 16, or having people selected for you. The next rule is that each wife must have 1 child or be pregnant by her 18th birthday. This, and the clan must start or have a taijutsu style associated with it. Now the reason I am telling the both of you this is because you both have had the CRA enacted on you. WHHAATT, yelled a shocked Naruto. He couldn't believe not only would he have 4 wives by 16, he would have 4 kids by 18. He was slightly happy though. This meant he could be with Hinata and Temari. Temari. I wonder if she knows about this. She's going to be pretty pissed off if she doesn't know. She'll be forced to share me. Naruto, you already have 2 engagements, said the Hokage. Naruto was in utter shock. He knew about Temari since he was 5, but now another woman was also promised to him. Did he know her? Would he love her? Who? Asked Naruto. Temari Sabuku, of course, and also Hinata Hyuga. The Hokage responded. He understood the boy's hysteria. This was a lot to take in. I am marrying Hinata-chan. I wonder if she knows, Naruto thought. No, she probably doesn't, and Temari-chan. I haven't seen her in about 5 years. I wonder how she has changed. Hokage-san, I was wondering, where will Naruto be living for his clan compound? Asked the raven-haired boy. He was worried about his brother moving. He was all he had left. Well, Sasuke, I have decided to split the Uchiha compound between the new Uchiha clan and the Uzumaki clan, said Hiruzen, smiling. He didn't want to split the boys too far apart. Awesome, our clans will be next to each other. Naruto exclaimed. It was comforting to know he and his brother would go through this together. Well, looks like he will always be right next door, thought Sasuke in relief. He wasn't losing his brother. Oh, I forgot. Congratulations to both of you for passing your test. And also I made a few changes to the compound, so I hope you'll be happy now. Go get some dinner and go home. I had your stuff moved this morning and decorated both of the main houses already. The Hokage continued. That will be all. The boys left and had dinner with the Hyuga one more time. They agreed not to discuss anything with Hinata just yet. After dinner, the boys walked to the place where their lives had changed. Neither of them ever visited the place. It would be too sad. Naruto swiped his blood over the gate, activating the blood seals Hiruzen had placed. The boys were shocked. There was one road in the middle. The long lines of interconnected homes in the back were 2 meeting houses, 1 for each clan. At the front were 2 houses in front of each row of homes. They were the clan heads' houses. The left was the Uzumaki, and the right was the Uchiha. It was so different, and both of the boys were glad of that. It did not remind them of that event. The boys moved to their separate homes, getting ready for the team assignments the next mornings. In the council room. As you all know, we'll be assigning teams today. Know who wants to give their suggestions first? The aging Kage asked. A medium-sized man with wild but slightly spiky hair moved forward. The man wore his headband down over left eye and a mask over the bottom of his face. The Cyclops ninja was none other Kakashi Hatake or Kakashi of the Sharingan. He was now the only person to still have the normal Sharingan. Hokage-sama, I have an idea for a team, one that I believe will one day surpass even the Sannin. I propose a team of myself, Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hyuga Hinata. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, that would create a power vacuum among the teams, said the tall, beautiful woman with the piercing red eyes who was a first-time Jounin sensei. I agree, Kurenai. What do you have to say to that, Kakashi? The Hokage said. He was sure that Kakashi would have a reason, but he wanted to hear it. They already have perfect teamwork, not to mention that Hinata's new Jukin would be wasted on the tracking team Kurenai wants to form. Also, we would have a close range, a close to mid-range, and a mid to long range. It is the perfect team. At the Uchiha and Uzumaki compound. Are you ready? Naruto questioned his brother before they made the last of their daily trips to the academy. So much had changed from the first one. They had lost, they had gained, they had grown. You know I am. I can't wait to see what team I am on and what sensei I have. Let's go, replied Sasuke, eagerly awaiting his future as a ninja. The boys walked to the academy. They were beyond excited. They took their seats and saved the chair at the end of the row for Hinata. She walked into the room and took her seat next to Naruto. Then, in the midst of all the yelling going on around them, the most unexpected thing that could have happened. Hinata-chan, I was wondering, well, I like you, so I was wondering if you wanted to go on a date with me, asked the nervous Naruto. He was worried because even if they were going to get married, what if she didn't really like him? The girl paused, not because she had to think of the answer she would give him, but because she was in shock. She liked Naruto, but she never believed the boy would reciprocate. Yes, Naruto, I would love to, responded to Naruto, and also Sasuke, who knew he would have to listen to his brother's sorrow if she said no. It would also have added a certain awkwardness to their friendship. Well, I'll pick you up around 7:30 tonight at the compounded, said Naruto, smiling at the blushing girl. Just as Hinata was going to respond, Iriko walked into the room. Hello, class, or should I say future shinobi of Konohagakure. Today you will be assigned to teams. That Hokage-sama assigned himself based on your strengths and weaknesses. Team 1. Team 7 Jounin Sensei will be Kakashi Hatake, and the Genin will be Sasuke, Uchiha Naruto, Uzumaki Uchiha, and... At that moment, all the girls began praying to be selected to this team, Naruto and Sasuke fangirls alike. Hinata desperately wanted to be on a team with her two friends, and she didn't want someone to steal Naruto from her. A certain girl of Konoha's Harpy clan thought that she would put up with the fake Uchiha, who her mother said was a demon, if it meant she could be with her Sasuke-kun. Hinata Hyuga. Irika chided to himself if there was one student he couldn't stand, it was Haruno Sakura. He prayed for Kiba and Shino. Liar, I must be on the team with Sasuke-kun, said the pink-haired girl. Sorry, but these are the teams chosen by Hokage-sama, the Chunin said. The girl cried tears of hatred. She thought the establishment was attempting to remove her from her true love. She decided that she would be with Sasuke if it meant she had to kill someone. Team 8 Kiba Inuzuka, Aburame Shino, and Haruno Sakura, and your sensei will be Yuhi Kurenai. Just my luck, bug boy and dog breath, thought Sakura. Irika went on. Team 10 Ino Yamanaka, Nara Shikamaru, and Akimichi Choji, and your sensei will be Sarutobi Asuma. Those are all the teams, so I'll be leaving. Your sensei should arrive soon. Irika finished and left the room. Jounin Sensei entered the room, leaving with their students one by one until just Team 7 was left. They sat as the hands on the clock turned at what seemed like half speed. Then Naruto decided that now would be a good time to test his Byakugan fighting style against the Jukin. Naruto wanted to learn the Jukin, but the Hyuga elders would never allow it. So instead, he began working with some of his mother's taijutsu scrolls of the Uzumaki fighting style. He tried turning the art known as Yuzu no Mai, or Dance of the Vortex. He managed to change it slightly to fit his Byakugan no Kitsune better. He had also learned how to improve his clan's native Kenjutsu style, Kazetsufu no Ha, by hitting the points of the body with the lowest amount of chakra, so even a small cut would be more painful and also take longer to heal. The other two told him that they should just wait for his sensei, and Naruto agreed, so he used his Byakugan to place a little electric pulse seal that would shock the next person who touched. Soon the cycloptic man touched the knob being zapped. He just brushed it off and walked on into the room. Naruto was angry. The man didn't even look surprised. Then the Jounin walked. You see, there were two old ladies who needed help crossing the road, so Kakashi used one of his top 10 favorite trademarked excuses. Now meet me upstairs. Before the genin knew it, their sensei had shined out of the room. The three heirs walked up the stairs to the roof of the academy and then sat at the bench in front of their sensei, who was leaning on the railing. Well, now that you are here, how about we get to know each other better by telling each other our names, likes, dislikes, and your dreams? Started Kakashi, wondering about the trio that would be his students. Well, that was if they passed the test. Why don't you go first, sensei? Sasuke told Kakashi, trying to get to know more about the man. Fine, my name is Kakashi Hitaki. My likes, well, they really of your concern. My dislikes, again, not really your concern either. As for my dreams, well, I don't want to share them with you. Finished Kakashi. The ninja in front of him just stared as their sweat dropped. Well, that was informative. Anyway, my name is Uchiha Uzumaki Naruto, and my likes are ramen, training, my friends, and my brother. My dislikes are those that harm others and the innocent as well as bullies. My dreams are to become Hokage so I can protect everyone. My other dream is to rebuild my clan and learn who my birth father was. Spoke an exuberant Naruto. While he didn't show any anger towards the man who killed his family, I wonder how his brother feels though. Kakashi thought. My name is Uchiha Sasuke, and my likes are training, my brother, and my friends. My dislikes are who take things from others and hurt them, as well as those who say my brother isn't a real Uchiha and glare at him. My dream is to rebuild my clan and take my brother's former position as Umbu captain and then father's former position as chief of the military police. Sasuke finished. He only wants to honor his family, not avenge them. Kakashi thought again. I am Hyuga Hinata. I like spending time with my two best friends as well as my other friends as well as my sister and cousin. I dislike the separation within my family and people who see kindness as weakness. My dream is for the caged bird seal to be eradicated. Hinata said. Well, we will see if you guys make Chunin tomorrow. Meet me tomorrow at the training ground at 7. Oh, and don't eat breakfast or you will throw up, said the Jounin nonchalantly. Well, let's see if these so-called prodigies follow orders blindly or not, though the Jounin, who caught himself smirking before he shined away. That was interesting, Naruto said. You can say that again, concurred Sasuke as they walked on. The trio, now known as Team 7-8, lunch after running into Team 10. The boys then dropped Hinata off, reminding her to eat breakfast. Naruto told Hinata he would pick her up at 7:30. The boys then left to train at their compound. Naruto was genuinely concerned about his first date. He took a shower having just trained. He then selected some of his more fancy civilian attire. He thought about where he was going to take her, realizing that he hadn't even considered it. He decided on a new sushi place. Naruto stood and gulped just outside of where he could be seen from the Hyuga compound, which was pretty far considering the range of the Byakugan. He then continued, finally making it to the gate. When he approached the gate, he found a single guard. Naruto-sama, the branch member said. They began calling him that after he moved in with the main family. Lord Hayashi wanted to speak to you before your date with Hinata-sama. Naruto nodded, not trusting his voice. If there was one person that scared him, it was Hayashi. In his time with the Hyuga, he had seen the man go from kind to terrifying, and now he wanted to meet with him. The boy slowly walked to the man's office. Anyone could read the fear coming off of him. He was like an open book. He walked into the office, and in front of him sat Hayashi Hyuga. Naruto-kun, I see you got my message. There are some things we need to discuss about dating my daughter. First, although you will marry her, she will remain a virgin until marriage, and the second is that even though I have treated you like a son for the last 4 years, if you ever hurt her, let me just say Baijigen or not, your line will not continue. Do I make myself clear? Of course, Hayashi Ajisen, said Naruto. But know this, if I hurt Hinata, you won't be able to hurt me, because I would already be dead. Hayashi smiled at the nobleness of the boy's words. Does she know of the engagement? Naruto asked, and as he did, a thought that scared him to death came upon him. Two of my in-laws are a clan head and a Kage. Just great. No, she doesn't, and I ask you to let me tell you, stated Hayashi. Of course, Ajisen. Naruto replied, and with that he turned out of the office. He walked out and saw. At the gate was Hinata facing his way. The Hyuga girl was wearing a light gray kimono that highlighted the light lavender shade in her eyes. He walked toward her with butterflies in his stomach. Little did he know that Hinata also had butterflies. The thought of her being nervous would never even enter his mind. Hello, Hinata-chan. Are you ready? The boy asked, worried about his voice the whole time. The girl nodded in response, not quite as confident in her voice. Well, let's go. I thought we could have dinner at this new sushi place, and then go for a walk. The girl smiled and nodded again. The two preteens walked hand in hand through the city, both of them smiling. They came to their table in the restaurant. They ate and just talked. Naruto, I'm enjoying this very much, but something concerns me. You are, engaged to Temari. How could we ever be together? Hinata asked. She really hoped his answer wouldn't be, we can't. She also didn't want to let down a path of heartbreak. As for Naruto, he hadn't thought of a way to explain this, so he was really nervous about that. He went into this date, hoping she wouldn't have remembered his nuptials. Well, Hinata-chan, you know how Sasuke and I are the last of our clans. Well, after the era of the warring clans, the Shodaime, in order to preserve the power of Konoha, enacted a law. The law is known as the Clan Restoration Act. It involves me having to take at least 4 wives. After that, the dinner continued with much lighter conversation until they had finished eating. The food there was exceptional, and both decided they would be dining there again. They had shared a tray of fatty tuna sashimi, with each of them having an array of sauces and an individual bowl or rice. Naruto paid when they finished. They then walked up to the Hokage mountain. Naruto showed her how beautiful Konoha was when you saw it from far up. The new couple sat there. Hinata leaned into Naruto's shoulder. Realizing it was close to 10:30, Naruto walked her home and gave her a small chaste kiss goodnight. They both blushed. Naruto walked home wondering what Hinata thought of their date. He then went to sleep, and he did after all have a very important day tomorrow. The next day, all members of the Chunin team ate breakfast, and the Chunin made it to the training ground. Their Jounin sensei, however, stood in front of a stone for 2 hours lost in thought. When Kakashi arrived, he found his team talking, apparently not caring he was hours late. All right, Kakashi said, trying to get their attention. Today you will each try to get these 3 bells from me. Whoever doesn't gets tied to a post while we all eat lunch. There is no point trying to break their teamwork, so let's just see what they got. And looks like they all ate breakfast, considering none of them looked fazed when I talked about lunch. The Jounin thought. Begin, he finally said. With that, a series of unfortunate events began for Kakashi. Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu, yelled Naruto. About 100 clones surrounded Kakashi. He didn't know that both Hinata and Sasuke were both hidden among the clones, and that cost him. After about 50 of the clones got extremely close to Kakashi, Sasuke shouted, Doton, Earth Dome. With that, a small dome concealed the clones, and what happened next shocked. You will see the pun later, Kakashi. Several clones threw out storage scrolls that held water that ended up filling the dome. Then in front of Kakashi were 3 Naruto, who formed a seal and then mouthed right on. Paralyzing shock. Yes, the pun was intended. Kakashi quickly switched with a piece of wood, but he didn't realize a Naruto clone had already taken the bells. Kakashi realized this as he exited. Well, you got me, congratulations, you all pass, but next time I want to see more out of Hinata, Kakashi said. Then he realized that she was right next to him, ready to fight him had he said anything different. Never mind. Here's your lunch. The group ate and went to Hinata's house. Kakashi went to the meeting with the Hokage. Team 1 fail, said a Jounin, obviously not happy. This trend continued until it was Kakashi. Team 7 passed the improvised bell test by taking the bell test. Kakashi sounded ashamed at the fact he had been beaten. Team 8 pass, said Kurenai. Team 10 pass, said Asuma, who actually didn't give his team a test. The next 4 months went by quickly for Team 7. They completed 15D ranks and 5C ranks. That was until the day they got the wave mission. Hinata and Naruto grew closer. They kissed in the open and went to dinner often. Sasuke and Ino started a relationship. That was once Ino got out of her fangirlness. Sasuke walked towards the compound. It was Ino's family house. It was much smaller than his own, but it had something his didn't: a family. The boy quickly pushed this thought away, thinking of all his family: Naruto, the Hokage, and so on. He now focused on the girl that had been his top fangirl. Apparently, she had become a more focused kunoichi in the past 4 months. He thought about her, asking her out at the academy. But then again, he didn't want some yes girl, he wanted someone strong and independent. He had decided that if she was being a more serious kunoichi, he would give her a chance. He had already decided that he would tell any girl he went out with about the CRA on their first date. They deserved the information. It wouldn't be far if the duo fell in love only for a person to say no to him because of the CRA. He finally came to the door and knocked. Ino opened the door. "Sasuke-kun," yelled an overly excited Ino. "Wait, he only started to like me because I stopped being a fangirl," thought Ino. "Where are we going for our date, Sasuke-kun?" the girl questioned, trying to sound more mature. "Well, I guess she hasn't completely grown out of being a fangirl, but the more we hang out it should go away," thought the young boy. The two teens wore their best clothes. Ino wore a purple silk kimono with a white lotus pattern, avatar shout-out. Sasuke wore a black kimono with black trim and 3 red tomo on the back. "I figured we could go to this sushi place my brother told me about. That is if you like sushi." Sasuke responded to the girl. Naruto said Hinata liked the place, so it sounded good to him. He quickly glanced at the face of the girl beside him. She was beautiful. The lights of Konoha shined as they walked. People said hello to the young Uchiha, who they loved, even if he was the brother of the demon. "That sounds great," the girl responded with a smile. They began to walk toward the restaurant, taking in the all too familiar sights of Konoha. They were about halfway to the restaurant when Sasuke decided to break the silence that stood between them. "So, Ino-chan, what is it like to be on Team 10 with Asuma-sensei?" asked Sasuke. It was strange, he found himself nervous. This was unknown territory for him, being on a date. It wasn't like the one Naruto and Hinata had. He didn't really know Ino. There was so much he would learn as he spent time with her. Ino, listening to his question, did not fail to notice the addition of Chan to her name once again. Well, Shikamaru is lazy as ever, but he does sometimes get serious on mission. Choji still eats all the time, and Asuma-sensei isn't that bad, but he usually just plays shugi with Shikamaru. "What about your team, how are they?" asked the girl, stopping herself from rambling. She didn't want to go on and on. She wanted to get to know Sasuke. Love was a two-way street. "Naruto and Hinata. Well, one of them is my brother, and the other has been since forever, so it's great spending time with them. Kakashi-sensei is always late. We train in the meantime, though, so it isn't so bad. He always takes missions seriously, especially the C-rank ones." "Has your team done any C-rank missions?" asked the boy, trying to learn more about the girl who one day might become his wife. "No, not yet, but Sensei says we should be going on one next week." Ino replied, a little ashamed. She knew Sasuke's team had already completed 5 C ranks. "I'm sure you'll do great." Sasuke wasn't usually the comforting type, but he could hear the doubt in the girl. Just as Ino was going to respond, Konoha's resident mythological creature showed up. "Sasuke-kun, what are you doing with Ino Pig?" screeched the thing that most people called Sakura. "If you must know, Sakura-san, Ino-chan and I are on a date, and I would like it very much if you would leave us alone and refrain from calling her a pig," replied Sasuke. Sure, Ino and he were only on their first date, but that didn't mean he would stand for someone calling her a pig, especially someone whose forehead was the size of a piglet. "He is on a date with that pig," thought outer Sakura. "That bitch stole our man, and her," screamed inner Sakura. "Yeah, you're right. Sasuke must be mine. I won't let Ino Pig have him." "Damn right, I am, and no we won't." Then, as Sakura came out of the trance that occurred when she talked to her true personality, she found Sasuke and Ino gone, and she skulked away, fuming about how she got away. "Well, that was a close one. Thank Kami we are finally here," said Sasuke under his breath. Sure, Ino was bad, but Sakura. As they walked into the restaurant, Sasuke asked the maitre, "May we have a table for 2? The short, bald man nodded and led the developing couple toward the table that would be theirs for the night. Sasuke pulled out Ino's chair and then proceeded to sit down. Ino walked around the place. The decorum was nice. There were paintings of forests and flowers. There were even a couple of bonsai. "Hello, are you ready to order?" asked the server, who was a teenage boy a little older than the two. "Yes, I'll have the tamaki," replied Sasuke. The cone-shaped sushi was something Hinata introduced him to. It was a safe bet to call him addicted. Not as bad as Naruto and ramen, but pretty bad. I'll have the gunkan maki, continued Ino. She was never a big fan of sushi until she tried that dish which she loved almost more than any other. Their food came, and they began eating. They continued talking until they finished their meal, at which point they left, and as Sasuke walked Ino home, he brought up the CRA. So Ino, I think there is something I have to tell you, considering that I had a great time and really want to see you again. You see, the council created something called the CRA. It makes it so I have to have 4 wives. The boy began. He saw the shock already building on Ino's face. And each has to have a child by the time they are 18. I don't know how you feel, but I didn't want to keep this from you. Finished Sasuke. It came out rushed, but at least he got it out. He has to have 4 wives, and I'd have to have a child by 18. Is he joking? No, he doesn't joke. I know him well enough to know better than that. Naruto is pretty much enough comedic release for that trio. I really like him, but can I share him? At least I'd have people going through this with me. What do I say? The platinum-haired girl thought. Well, Sasuke, I have liked you for a long time, but I need to think about this, okay? Said Ino hesitantly. She didn't want to lose her shot at Sasuke. Of course, Ino-chan, I would be worried if you didn't time. Besides, it isn't like we would be getting married tomorrow. He said this as the couple came to the door. Sasuke smiled at Ino and kissed her on the cheek, and she blushed. Sasuke kissed me, she thought. They said their goodbyes, and Ino went inside. Sasuke went home to think about the date. Team 7 now sat waiting in the lobby. The Hokage had sent an umbu to collect them at their training ground early in the morning, and they now sat waiting. The lady who was the Hokage's secretary now walked over to them and directed them to enter the Hokage's office. The 4 of them entered and bowed to their Kage, as was the custom when seeing the Hokage in an official setting. You were also not to speak until spoken to. Team 7, a man has submitted a simple escort and guard mission, but considering the instability of the country that he is going to, Wave Country, I am worried about surprises. Unfortunately, I cannot afford to send a team of Chunin on this mission, so I have decided that you are the best option for this. Said the 3rd. He was genuinely concerned about sending any other Genin team on this mission, but Team Dojutsu wasn't the average team of Genin. He was actually sure Naruto and Sasuke were at least low Jonin, and Hinata was a high Chunin caliber shinobi. Of course, Hokage-sama, we will do our best to reach your expectations, responded Sasuke, not wanting his younger brother to embarrass the team. I hope so, Sasuke-kun, the Kage said. Then he said slightly louder, you can send in Tazuna-san now. With that, the doors opens, and a man whose sake-filled breath could be smelled from Water Country stumbled into the room. He then spoke. These are the brats that are supposed to protect me. The blonde one looks goofy. That guy, I mean how he can see with one eye, stuttered the drunken old man who was the only hope for his country. Sir, I can assure you that my team will protect you, replied Kakashi. When their sensei finished, Sasuke waited for his brother's snide remarks, but they never came. He looked over to Naruto and Hinata, expecting to see them holding hand, but instead he found them an arm's length apart. He thought, I wonder what Naruto did now. I better talk to Hinata. I want all of you to pack for a 3-week mission, Kakashi said, interrupting Sasuke's thoughts, and the cycloptic man left. Naruto, would you mind packing for me? I have to do something before we leave, asked Sasuke. Naruto nodded and left. As Naruto was out of sight, Sasuke caught up to Hinata. Hinata-chan, I know it isn't my business, but why are you mad at Naruto? Questioned Sasuke. Hinata responded. Well, last night. Flashback. Hinata and Hanabi sat in the former's room. They were pressing flowers. It was what they always did after training. It reminded her of times when she was young and would do this with her mother. Hinata genuinely missed her mother, and as an older sister, she felt it was her duty to do these things with her little sister like she used to do with her mother. They both equally enjoyed these little hobbies. Hinata-sama, your father requests your presence, said the branch member who stood at the doorway of the large room. Hinata thought how odd this was. Her father tried not to interrupt Hanabi and herself during times like this. Thank you, Nakoma-san. And Hanabi, keep pressing, I'll be back soon, said the lavender-eyed girl. She smiled at her young sister, who smiled back. She then walked to her father's office. When she arrived, she took the seat in front of him. Her father's office was small and the walls bare. He enjoyed being surrounded by white. He felt it was more intimidating. Hinata-chan, there is something we need to talk about. but you must promise not to interrupt me." The girl nodded, wondering why her father would have her promise that, "Hinata, you are betrothed to Naruto, and not only that, but Naruto must take 4 wives." Hinata was starting to get the whole no interrupting thing. "Also, you must bear a child by your 18th birthday." The man finished with a sigh, worried about his daughter's response. This was a lot to take in. Flashback. "So you are mad because you have to marry Naruto?" Sasuke asked. He honestly never thought this would have been Hinata's reaction. Shocked, surprised, sure, but upset. He swore she had liked him enough to marry him. "No, I'm mad because he didn't tell me himself," Hinata responded. Sasuke face-palmed and looked at Hinata. "Your dad should really tell the whole story. He was the one that asked Naruto to let him tell you." Hinata responded. Sasuke, he understood how that could cause her to be upset. He was also glad he wouldn't have to deal with a moping Naruto. I mean, the last time Naruto was sad in this sort of way was when he realized he wouldn't see Temari for 5 years or so. He did nothing for a good week or so. At the gate stood Team Dojutsu and Tazuna. Hinata now stood closer to Naruto like she usually did and had given him a kiss when he arrived. Naruto, ignorant to why Hinata had been mad, just went with the flow. He had decided long ago he would never understand girls, and so he had stopped trying too. The group walked. Hinata behind Tazuna, Sasuke to the left and Naruto to the right, while Kakashi walked in front. Hinata had her Byakugan activated. She saw a group of 3 low Umbu-level ninja. They were running towards them. "3 shinobi coming our way," yelled Hinata. In all of their C ranks, they had never once fought actual shinobi, only bandits. "I don't think this will be our normal, everyday C rank," thought Kakashi. He was somewhat happy, though. This would allow him to understand where his team's skill level truly stood. Hinata fall back to protect Tazuna. "Naruto, Sasuke, you're with me," Kakashi said. He saw the doubt in Hinata's pupil-less eyes. The genin followed their orders. Then 3 ninja landed on the ground in front of them. They all wore Umbu masks. Kakashi Hatake, also known as Kakashi of the Sharingan. "You are losing your touch if you think a couple of genin could take out the IWA extermination unit," said the headman. All 3 wore standard Umbu garb, but it was a dark shade of brown with the kanji for dust on the front. Kakashi had heard of them. They were a group. They were a division of Umbu that was unique to IWA. Their task: eliminate people found in the bingo book. No other hidden village had such a unit because of IWA. Their unit had an 80% mortality rate. No other village was willing to send their ninja to nearly certain death. "You would be surprised what they are capable of." "Naruto, Sasuke, no playing around," Kakashi said. Naruto and Sasuke understood, so they both activated their UMS. This was the first time the UMS would see outside the walls of Konoha. "Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu." Sasuke and Naruto both yelled. This was Plan Delta, so it was distract and paralyze. "You must be crazy if you think that will take us out," said the arrogant leader of the IWA team. What he didn't know was that there were 3 people behind them. Naruto's eyes changed as the 3 stepped back. 3 Naruto clones in back of them with Byakugan activated quickly yelled, 121 points. Chakra release. When Naruto said that Hinata's Byakugan saw what it did, it opened 121 Tenketsu, completely causing the recipient to barely have chakra. Then Naruto walked up, placing paralysis tags on the 3. He then promptly passed out. "The 3 of you go ahead. I need to take care of this," said Kakashi. Sasuke nodded as he picked up an exhausted Naruto. The combined chakra use was a lot. The UMS and Byakugan along with a C and S rank jutsu used a lot of chakra even for him. Not to mention the 400 shadow clones he had created between the fight and Hinata. He meant Tazuna. The UMS and Byakugan themselves didn't cause high chakra drain. However, going from one directly to the other without returning to normal eyes caused a drain of an S-rank jutsu. He wasn't completely passed out and could probably have continued fighting if need be. Forcing yourself to pass out allowed your chakra to replenish at a faster rate. Kakashi thought to himself silently as they walked. He knew there must be some leak in the village that would lead to IWA discovering about this mission. He decided it must be a low-level one that he didn't know of Team 7's true potential. IWA must be planning something, and they are attempting to get rid of Konoha's higher-level threats. This isn't good, he decided. The quartet walked on until Hinata saw a puddle. The 3 thought it odd since it hadn't rained in days. Hinata took out one of the custom right-on paralysis tags Naruto had given her. She placed it in the water, stepped back, and then activated it. Suddenly, two ninja burst out of the water, shaking at the force of the right on. Then after the convulsing stopped, the two lay paralyzed on the floor. Then Kakashi jumped out of the tree beside them. Sometimes I wish you guys weren't so efficient. I wanted to see who these two, the demon brothers, were going for. Kakashi said, 5 ninja in one day, definitely not a C rank. In fact, this wasn't even a B rank. It was more like a high-level A rank. It was me, came the voice of Tazuna. He couldn't hide the fact any longer. You see, in Wave Country, a man named Gato has taken over on building the bridge, so he can't control the economy anymore. I knew he would send ninja, but this was all the money my countrymen had, and we still couldn't get a B rank. I'll understand if you want to leave. I just hope they leave me in one piece for my daughter and grandson, said Tazuna, playing for sympathy. As a civilian, he had no idea how lucky he was. Most ninjas had no sympathy or civic duty. But the teaching line of these ninja originated with a man who said, I dream of a time when all shinobi will cooperate with each other. A time when everyone's hearts will be together regardless of their countries. The first Hokage. Don't try for sympathy, we won't give you any. The voice of Kakashi rebutted. He knew he was lying to the will of fire-commanded shinobi to help all those who needed them. He continued on, but the Hokage gave my team this mission because he thought there was something fishy going on. This team is the most powerful genin team in the village, so you're in luck. Kakashi finished. He was honestly happy the Hokage had sent them. All the other teams would have been killed on this mission, except for maybe Guy's team. Thanks. Now let's keep going. I need to hurry and finish this bridge, said Tazuna. The group walked on. Hinata's Byakugan saw two ninja. One had the same power as Kakashi. You two can come out now, yelled Hinata to the rest of the group's surprise. Out of the bushes jumped two ninja. One was tall and noticeably muscular. He had pale skin, short spiky black hair, brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He had bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. The ninja on his left had long black hair, pale skin, a slender frame, and was also quite short. She wore an umbu mask. Zabuza Momochi, Demon of the Mist, a rank missing nin of Kirigakure, wanted for treason against the Mizukage, said Kakashi. The man before them was dangerous, not to mention the added threat of the girl in the hunter nin mask. Kakashi of the Sharingan, it is an honor that you know my name. You were a kill on sight in the bingo book when I was one of the 7 swordsmen. But why don't you and the kids step aside while we kill the old man, said Zabuza. Kakashi threw 3 kunai at Zabuza. They all missed. What the target didn't see was the inscriptions on the kunai. Naruto had given his whole team these kunai. They were the parts of the 3-point paralysis seal jutsu. Zabuza was now completely immobilized. How did you do that? Thought the trapped Zabuza, but his thoughts were interrupted. Why do you need to kill the old man? Asked the now walking Naruto out of the blue. He had positioned himself in front of Hinata, much to her disdain. Well, you see, kid, running from Hunter Nin isn't cheap, responded Zabuza, unsure why he was answering the runt, and also how he managed to get trapped. Well, if you want to get away from Kiri, I have an idea. You set up a meeting with your employer Gato and take him out helping us complete our mission, and then when this mission is over, we take you back to Konohagakure under the protection of my brother and I, giving you amnesty, said Naruto. Kakashi was shocked. Not only would Zabuza help with the mission, but it would eliminate the risks involved, and as a plus, Konohagakure gets an A rank nin. That sounds great, kid, but your brother and you are just genin. How your protection would help us? Asked a skeptical Zabuza. Well, actually, Zabuza, Naruto, and Sasuke's protection would make you untouchable, said Kakashi, who at this point was on board with the plan. Well, if that's true, then I like this idea of yours, said Zabuza. Amnesty sounded great. No more running, and one day he would go back to the mist and become the Mizukage. Tazuna-san, when can the bridge be done if you have 200 more workers? Asked Naruto. Well, I don't know where you are going to find 200 extra worker that will work for free, but it would take 1 week to finish, responded Naruto, wondering about finding 200 more people. Well, Zabuza, meet us at the bridge in a week and make sure Gato is dead, said Naruto, wondering if he could trust the man. I'll be there. Just make sure you can follow up on your end of the bargain, said Zabuza. With that, Zabuza and Haku left to their base. Team Dojutsu went on to the home of Tazuna. Tsunami. Inari, I'm home, yelled Tazuna. The group hadn't seen him this happy the whole trip. Thank you so much for keeping my father safe. Now how about we have dinner? The woman the group assumed was Tsunami said. They walked and sat down at the table. Then a young boy walked in. Grandpa, who are these people? Asked Inari. These are the people who are going to help stop Gato, responded Tazuna with a smile at the thought of getting rid of Gato. You should leave. You are weak. Gato is too strong. He will definitely kill you all, yelled Inari before running away. I'm sorry about Inari, he's had a difficult life, said Tazuna. Would you mind telling us what happened? Hinata asked quietly. I suppose. Tazuna responded. He told the story of Inari and Kyaza and how greatly Kyaza's death affected Inari. After the end of the story, Naruto got up and went to Inari, who he found on a balcony looking out toward the ocean. The young boy was crying. Inari, do you think your dad would want you to cry? No, he would want you to help your grandfather and continue his legacy, said Naruto in the most determined voice he could muster. What do you know about pain? Asked Inari, not expecting to get an answer. What do I know about pain? Well, a man killed the entire clan that adopted me except for my brother, and most of the villagers hate me. But I get it, you are one of those people who think they are the only ones who know pain. What about your mom? She lost Kyaza too. But you don't help her, you're just a baby. I'm not a baby, it just hurts, responded Inari with a voice caught in despair. I know, but you can't let the hurt take you over. Use the hurt to carry on the legacy of Kyaza, said Naruto. He didn't want to be too hard on the boy because he thought he got the message. Thank you, said Inari, finally realizing he had been wrong. The next morning, in a bunker hidden in the forest, Zabuza lay on a bed like he was hurt. This was part of his plan. Then Gato walked in. You idiot, you let them get away, some demon you are, said Gato as he moved toward the man who looked helpless. See, Gato, the thing about demons is you can't really trust them, said Zabuza as he quickly drove a kunai into Gato's neck. You bastard, the guards said before they tried to hurt Zabuza. Haku quickly sent 2 non-lethal sunbon to their throat. The 2 bodies of the men hit the floor. Haku, why don't you go into the forest or something while I clean up, said Zabuza. Yes, Zabuza-sama. She left the compound and went toward the ocean. On her way there, she came upon a certain raven-haired boy. She shook him till he woke. You know, if you sleep outside, it's not good for, said Haku. I know, I was training and I feel asleep. And by the way, I never got your name the other day, replied Sasuke. My name is Haku, said Haku. Well, it is nice to meet you, Haku. I have a question for you, though. How did you come to be with Zabuza? Asked Sasuke. He was genuinely interested in how such a pretty girl ended up with a missing nin. Haku told her story of how her father killed her mother and how Zabuza found her and gave her purpose. Sasuke gave his story of his family's death. They then kind of just sat there for a while. Sasuke, it was nice talking to you, but I have to go back to Zabuza-sama, said Haku. Okay, Haku. But before you go, I was wondering, would you like to go on a date when we go back home? Sasuke couldn't believe he asked a girl he just met on a date. Okay, Sasuke, replied Haku before she left. As soon as she was turned around, a light blush appeared. As Zabuza's companion, she had to act as a male in the dark criminal underworld. She hardly had time to be a girl at all. She thought Sasuke was cute and was happy to go on a date with him. She stepped back into the hideaway and told Zabuza about her meeting, leaving out the date, of course. Zabuza was what one would consider to be an overprotective father. Haku was mostly sure that he would kill Sasuke if he knew. The next day was a busy one. Kakashi got the note about Gato's death as well as the location and decided to take a side mission, so he got the team together. We are going to raid Gato's place for anything that we can get as bonuses for our mission. Okay, Kakashi-sensei, but where is it? Asked Naruto. Follow me, it is only a couple of miles away, said the Jounin, and then the team was off. They ran, and they stopped in the bushes in front of the hideout. All right, Hinata, tell us how many people are inside, said Kakashi. The place is empty, Kakashi-sensei. It is a large warehouse, but in the back is a large safe, said Hinata, surprised that the place was already abandoned. Kakashi thought the same. Well then, let's go in, said Kakashi. They went into the underground base. There was nothing but empty crates and chairs inside, so they walked to the safe in the back. Kakashi used a chakra key to open the vault. Inside safe 4 things of insurmountable value. They bore the marks of an ancient clan and a Kage. They belonged to the Uzumaki and had the mark of the Uzukage. Naruto looked on as he saw the 4 scrolls in front of him. They would allow him to truly restore his clan. He looked at the scrolls for seals with his Baijigen. Sure enough, there were blood seals on all of them. He activated the seals with a little of his blood. The first one he found contained a full collection of Uzumaki Nin and Fuinjutsu. It was safe to say Naruto was ecstatic. He couldn't believe the prospect of having a true clan library. Then he opened the next scroll. It was armor from the first Uzumaki. It was like the armor of the first Uzumaki. It was in the style of the Nine-Tails armor, but it was black and in red paint with orange flakes. In the front, it had the kanji for Uzumaki, and in the back, it had the kanji for spirit. It was beautiful. It was made of chakra armor that hardened when infused with chakra. Naruto thought, I will definitely wear this when I become clan head. In the third chest was the Uzumaki summoning contract. It said Hydra. Naruto had never heard of a Hydra, but he hoped Bunta would let him sign this with the Toad one. He also told himself to let his future wives and children choose between this and the Toads. In the last chest was something Naruto felt elated about. It was two things. It was the rest of the Uzumaki Uzu no Mai style scrolls, as well as a katana. This blade was no regular one. It was the blade of the first Uzukage. The scabbard was black, and engraved in gold, red, and orange was the kanji spirit of the Uzumaki. The handle was red, orange, and black braiding, and at the bottom was the clan symbol. The blade itself was magnificent. The hamon was like rolling waves, and the blade had engraved first Uzukage. Naruto, this wasn't just Gado's hideout. This was an Uzumaki safe house that was used to store artifacts. The Uchiha and Hyuga also have these, said Sasuke, who was happy for his brother. Naruto, seal this stuff up, and let's go. Obviously, you can keep this stuff since it belongs to your clan, said Kakashi. Throughout the next 5 days, 200 Naruto clones helped with the bridge, and another 100 practiced the newly discovered Uzumaki stuff. Naruto decided to wait till he got back to Konoha to talk to Bunta and the Hydra, while the real Naruto spent time between Hinata and Inari. Sasuke wanted to train to get stronger, so he asked Kakashi to teach him. Kakashi wanted Sasuke to learn Chidori, so he put 50 pounds of weights on Sasuke's arms and legs. It was the last day, and the bridge was done. Unknown to the villagers, a group of 60 men came to take what they were owed since Gado was dead. At the head was missing rock named Deidara. This was his test to join the Akatsuki. They made it to the front of the bridge. Deidara blew up the front of the bridge. Kakashi turned instantly and saw who the man was. The battle ensued. The bandits behind the man were easily handled by Sasuke and Hinata. Kakashi knew Naruto could use the explosion release. You sent a kid to fight me. What a joke, but he'll make a great work of art. Explosion release, clay birds, yelled Deidara. But what happened next surprised even Kakashi. Explosion release, clay birds, Naruto repeated, and at that instant half the birds in the flock turned and went to attack Deidara. The birds all exploded at the same time and covered the two in smoke. The next moment, Deidara and Naruto both landed on the ground. Impossible, yelled Deidara. He thought no one out of IWA had it. Oh well, explosion release, great death. All of Deidara's clay went toward Naruto. Naruto strained to fight the clay back. It exploded between the two fighters. Out of the smoke, Naruto saw Deidara on a large bird flying away. That kid was tough, and without the clay there was no way I could take Kakashi or Zabuza, thought Deidara. Naruto passed out again. It was really tough using a new bloodline. They fixed the bridge in 2 days and went back to Konoha. The town then started saying their goodbyes. Inari was the last and hugged Naruto. Naruto told him to get stronger and help his mom and grandpa whenever they needed it. Inari agreed and went back to the big group. After saying their final goodbyes, the Konoha group with Haku and Zabuza all left across the bridge and headed back home. Hey Gramps, what should we call the bridge? Inari asked his grandpa. Well, I think we should call it the Great Konoha Bridge. All in favor? Tazuna yelled, and getting a loud yes reply, they all agreed on the name. And from that day forth in Wave Country, the story of Team 7 circulated through the entire country of Wave. The group of now 6 people walked up to the gate. Izumo and Kotetsu saw the group coming. Kakashi, who are the other 2 people with your group? Asked Kotetsu. This is Zabuza Momochi and Haku Yuki, replied Kakashi coolly. At mention of the name Kotetsu and Izumo tightened. They had heard stories of the man, and quite frankly, he was terrifying. He must be taken into custody immediately, said Izumo quickly. Just as Naruto was about to reply, he was shocked to hear Sasuke speak first. That will not be necessary. Zabuza Momochi and Hakuyuki are under the protection of the Uzumaki and Uchiha clans, said Sasuke. The Chunin looked at Kakashi, who simply nodded. The Chunin let them go to the Hokage. Naruto, I've been meaning to ask you how you know about village law. Kakashi asked in a curious manner. Well, Otosin knew I was going to be clan head, so he taught me clan law, said Naruto matter-of-factly. The group made it to the Hokage tower and went into his office. Hokage-sama, our mission was a success, but in regards to others present, Naruto and I request asylum for Zabuza Momochi and Hakuyuki, said Sasuke in an official way. To gain asylum, one must be interrogated, so that is unavoidable. After that they will be tested for the current level of skill, after which they will become shinobi. For now, though, they will need somewhere to live. The Hokage responded. He actually couldn't wait to hear how all of this came to be from Kakashi later. Thank you for your acceptance, Hokage-sama, said Zabuza and Haku in a very respectful tone. Also, we can provide housing, said Naruto. That will be acceptable. Snake, badger, tiger ID, you could take Ibiki-san, the Hokage said. The Umbu took the pair to Ibiki. Kakashi, here is the paperwork you asked for, the Hokage said. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Here you go, fill these out and go to room 301 2 days from now. It's for the Chunin exams. You are dismissed. The group nodded and left the office along with Kakashi. Sasuke went home while Hinata and Naruto walked the village. Something interesting happened. In the council room, a familiar place to the Hokage, sat the council ready for his arrival. The Hokage walked in the room with full robes on and sat in his chair. I am here to inform you of the arrival of 2 people into the village who request amnesty, said the Hokage. He hated these protocol as it forced him to meet with the council, and somehow they always brought up Naruto. Their names are Zabuza Momochi and Hakuyuki. Now, let's get this over with. Who votes in? Hokage-sama, what do this ninja have that make them worthy of being given amnesty? Asked a civilian councilman who received nods from the rest of the council. The Hokage was hoping they'd just let it go on by. Zabuza Momochi and Hakuyuki helped with the completion of an A-rank mission. I'll go into detail after the civilian council departs. And upon completion, the Uzumaki clan and the Uchiha clan placed them under their protection. Zabuza Momochi was an A-class missing mean known for being a kenjutsu and assassination specialist. He was one of the 7 swordsmen. Hakuyuki is the last known member of the Yuki clan. She has the ice release Kekai Genkai. So no, would you please vote? Said the Hokage, tired of explaining. 75% voted for their admission, and when the Hokage was about to dismiss the civilian council, when one of them decided to speak. Hokage, we request that the KY. He received glares and corrected himself. Naruto Uzumaki be barred from the Chunin exams. The Hokage was pissed, but responded. Your request is denied. Now all civilians get out, said the angry village leader. The civilians begrudgingly left as they were reminded how little power they actually had. Now for the report of Team 7 aka Team Dojutsu. They were first attacked by their Jounin-level ninja from Iwa's famed elimination squad. Their target was Kakashi. At this point, he saw the shock on many of the clan heads. Sasuke and Naruto handled it. Naruto passed out after this. Hinata's Byakugan found a puddle laced with chakra. She used one of Naruto paralysis tags and found the shinobi in the puddle were the demon brothers. They met Zabuza and company, convincing them to assist. After this, there was a battle on the now named Konoha Bridge between Naruto and Deidara. There was a side mission in which Naruto retained some clan artifacts. He is now in possession of 6 bloodlines, including explosion and ice release. He managed to find one of the slugs that produces exploding clay. The group was shocked, and Hayashi was silently happy that he had betrothed his daughter to the boy who would surely become Hokage. Naruto and Hinata walked hand in hand until they noticed a large square rock following them. You can come out now, said Naruto, and without a loud puff and a huge cloud of smoke, 3 short coughing academy students came to view. I'm Miyogi, the sassiest kunoichi around. I'm Udan, I like algebra. And I'm Konohamaru, the leader, and we're the Konohamaru Corps, went the trio. Then Konohamaru ran up to Naruto and took the sealing scroll on his back, trying to play ninja. Konohamaru ran into a tall kid with purple makeup on his face. Hey, watch where you are going, kid, yelled Kankuro. You know, Kankuro, you could be a little nicer, said Naruto kind-heartedly. Then Naruto looked at the beautiful girl standing next to Kankuro, Temari. She was tall and had green eyes with blonde hair, which is gathered into 4 ponytails. Temari's outfit consisted of a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. Hinata was shocked at what happened next. Temari went up and kissed Naruto deeply on the lips. The boy was shocked. The girl pulled back. Hi, Temari-chan, Kankuro-san, said Naruto, still in shock. Temari-chan, it is nice to see my fellow fiancé again, said Hinata, a little mad about the kiss. What do you mean, fellow fiancé, Hinata? Asked Temari on the defensive. She had known about her engagement since she was young, as had Naruto. She also knew that if Naruto passed the Chunin selection, she would never go back to Suna, but she didn't know anything about this. Well, you see, Temari-chan, because of my dojutsu, I have to have multiple wives, and Hinata is one of the current 2. Replied Naruto, a little scared of his future wife. He realized that Kankuro had vanished from the group, and all he could think was, damn bastard. Oh really, father never told me anything about this, was all Temari could say before Gara interrupted. Mother wants your blood, she says you will prove my existence, Gara said before he used the Suna Shunshin to leave. Naruto stared in shock before he could finally spoke. Temari, what happened to Gara? Naruto asked. They had been friends. This wasn't the Gara he knew. This Gara was crazy. Can you give us some time alone? I'll tell you what happened later, he whispered to Hinata. She nodded and she left, but not without getting a kiss with just a little tongue, which made her blush. No matter how many times they kissed in public, she would still blush a light pink. As Hinata turned around and left for the Hyuga compound, Naruto placed his arm around Temari. She was obviously shaken, and he was trying desperately to comfort her. He knew Temari was the type of person to hide her feelings from other people. They walked in silence through the village, receiving strange looks. It was no secret that Naruto was dating Hinata, so why was he comforting this girl in such an intimate way? But Naruto didn't really care. Temari was his fiancée too. They finally arrived in Naruto's favorite place on top of the Yandame's face. He thought it would be a great place to calm her down. They laid down on the stone and stared at the cloud. Naruto had learned to love Shikamaru's favorite pastime. It was so calming. Temari-chan, what happened? Naruto asked, still in some form of shock as the two lay there. He knew she had been close with her littlest brother, and him acting like this must be killing her. Gara and Temari had been close as children, and the bond one develops with a sibling isn't one easily lost. The year after we stopped visiting you, a group of Amin came, and then after they left, he just changed. He didn't remember who we were or the past. He started threatening people. Temari said in a depressed way. She wanted to cry, but she was a kunoichi and just couldn't let herself. Temari, I promise you I'll give you your brother back no matter what it takes, Databeo, said a very serious Naruto. It was strange, whenever he got like this, that word just came out. Temari was happy that she was with Naruto. For a long time, she had been broken. After her mother died, she had taken a large responsibility with her 2 small siblings. It killed her slowly losing Gara. Every day, every time she saw her, she dug herself a hole inside and crawled into it. She and Naruto hadn't been able to talk much because of missions and training. If she had told him this via letter, he wouldn't have believed her anyway. Her fiancé had promised though, and she always knew Naruto kept these promises. With a slight release, she let her emotions overtake her. Thank you, Naruto-kun, was all she said before she pulled him toward her. She was happy she knew enough to know Naruto kept his promises. She didn't know what came over her as she kissed him, but this kiss escalated quickly. Naruto's eyes widened as her tongue entered his mouth. He soon began the battle for dominance, and just as he began to win, Temari ended the kiss. They had been lying down in each other's embrace. She knew this kiss was going too far, and she also thought of something else. She had never kissed a boy. She felt like it would be cheating on Naruto. But now that she was with him, and in such an emotional state, she had just let go. Then somewhere in the back of her consciousness, 3 letters were mumbled: CRA. Naruto-kun, I was hate to ruin the moment, but we need to talk about the CRA, said the blonde girl. Naruto pouted in a cute way. Temari was really a great kisser, even if the kiss was sudden. Well, Temari-chan, the CRA is made to protect my dojutsu. Naruto began only to be interrupted by Temari. You have a dojutsu? shouted the stunned girl. She couldn't believe her fiancé had a dojutsu, and she had no idea, but then again her fiancé had another fiancé, and she didn't know. What else does he have a summoning contract for a dragon? She questioned herself internally. Yes, it is called the Baijigen. It allows me to copy bloodlines, or pretty much anything. It also lets me use yin and yang chakra easily. Lastly, it gives me the ability to change, make, and erase seals with just my eyes. But anyway, about the CRA, it means I have to have 4 wives and restart the Uzumaki clan. You and Hinata are both my fiancé, so I figure you two will decide whether or not the girls are okay. Said Naruto. He was worried about how the girl would react. He didn't want to trap Temari. Well, Naruto-kun, I'm glad you will let me and Hinata have a say about the other girls, said Temari. Hinata was a truly kind and caring person. She wouldn't allow some stupid bitch to take advantage of Naruto. Of course I would. I love you both, and also I want you and your brothers and Baki-san to stay with me on my compound, okay? Asked Naruto. Temari gave him a quick kiss in response. All right, we'll go pick them up at the hotel. They probably haven't unpacked yet. A happier Temari said. I proceeded to pick up Temari's team and go to the compound. As they walked, Naruto and Kankuro talked with Temari hand in hand with Naruto. Baki walked next to Gara watching him. So you have to have 4 wives and one of them is my sister? Wow, I would pray to all the kamis if I were you, Naruto. Said Kankuro. At first he thought the boy was lucky, but that was short-lived when he thought about living with 4 women like his sister. They arrived at the compound. Hey Gara, Temari, Kankuro, Baki, Sasuke waved. Naruto pointed to the room. You will do well to prove my existence. Gara said before going to the room that he would be his. Sasuke was informed of the situation during dinner. After dinner, the Suna Nin left to the house in the back. Before Temari left, she decided to pull Naruto aside to kiss him for a 3rd time that day. Naruto concluded that Temari was a little more liberal with the kissing. Naruto decided to have lunch with both girls the next day. Sasuke and Naruto sat down in the living room to discuss Sasuke's day. Flashback with Sasuke earlier that day. Sasuke Uchiha walked slowly away from the Hokage's office. It had been almost 2 weeks since his date with Ino. He couldn't help but wonder if she had made her decision. He walked on though he was very tired and had his date with Haku tomorrow. He made it to his compound after receiving bows from all the villagers calling him Uchiha-sama. He hated the way they kissed up to him, but then hated his brother. The boy walked through the gate and went into his home. He took off his ninja uniform and put on civilian clothes. He walked out of the bathroom and stared out into the room that was his parents' room. He just stood there for a minute. He proceeded into the room and went to lay on the bed. His finger got cut on the end table, and almost as if in slow motion, a drop of his blood fell to the floor. When the blood hit the floor, something happened that Sasuke wasn't prepared for. A bright red seal that reminded Sasuke of fire glowed on the floor. In the middle was the kanji for secret. After this happened, a trap door opened, and Sasuke found 2 scrolls. Both were made of black paper similar to the kind Naruto had found in the safe house. He read the 2 scrolls. The first one read, Secret Technique, Phoenix Fire Armor. He looked at the Jutsu scroll and saw why it was an S-rank technique. The amount of chakra it required was insane. Luckily for him, though, ever since his blood promise with Naruto, his chakra levels was at the same level, so was Hinata's, but Kyuubi had said it couldn't work again. He took the scrolls into the backyard and learned the technique. It took him 20 minutes. It was a simple jutsu. It was just high on chakra. Basically, the jutsu let chakra seep out in its fire transformation. Basically, as long as you have chakra, you have armor. You could also control the temperature. After he was done with the jutsu, he moved on to the second scroll, which was much larger than the first. He read the front. It said, Phoenix Summon. This was the second animal he had never heard of along with the Hydra. He wondered why both of these used black paper. He signed the contract. After that, he performed the seals. He remembered because Jiraiya-sensei had taught them to all of them. He placed his hands on the floor, and then the pattern appeared. He yelled, Kuchios no Jutsu. Phoenix. A giant cloud of black smoke appeared before him. It was near 20 feet in height. The cloud blew away, and before Sasuke stood one of the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen. The phoenix was 18 feet in height. It had talons and a beak, both made of obsidian. The bird had feathers of yellow and dark orange like fire. Its skin was swirls of crimson, red, and bright orange. The most amazing thing, though, was that the bird was on fire. It was just a small fire, though it reminded him of the armor jutsu. Sasuke's thoughts were interrupted, though, by a loud voice that was almost like a song. "Who dares summon me, the Queen of the Phoenix?" said the mighty being. She had not been summoned in 200 years. She was quite happy in her own realm. "I did, Lady Phoenix. I am Sasuke Uchiha. I am the last Uchiha," said Sasuke. He knew that he shouldn't piss off the Phoenix Queen. Looking down at the young Uchiha, the Phoenix Queen sneered. "Oh, I see. Another young Uchiha thinking he can just summon me at will. Well, Sasuke-chan, unfortunately for you, I will not squander my talent on just a mere child. So for me to allow you told the Phoenix contract, you must fight me." The Phoenix said, flapping her wings allowed him to rise to the air. "Eternal flames of the Phoenix," Hano yelled before a white-hot ball of flame the size of the Nidame's head went barreling towards Sasuke. "Field of distortion, ceiling of fire," Sasuke shouted. It was one of the jutsu of the universal Mangekyo Sharingan. It created a large ring of Amaterasu flames that absorbed Katon jutsu. Maybe this child is something special. Those eyes are greater than his, thought Hano. Sasuke decided not to depend on the UMS, so he tried out another defense. "Secret technique. Phoenix fire armor," shouted the boy as his body became covered in a thin layer of fire. "Time to go on the offensive," thought Sasuke. "Fire and lightning. Eternal vortex of shocking flame," was all Hano heard, but Sasuke said something else, his under-breath secret seal. "Pentagram of paralysis," he said. Hano had risen to the sky in avoidance of his Katon-Raiton combination. She hadn't seen the pentagram on the ground, the points made of Sasuke's kunai. As the Phoenix landed, the seal expanded, and she couldn't move. Every time she moved, a large amount chakra was drained. The seal worked by draining someone's chakra if there was movement. "It seems I was wrong about this boy. Of course I was at 1/5 power, but this was still amazing." He was the first Uchiha who had passed the test while not relying entirely on the Sharingan. "Sasuke, you have passed the test. Now if you could release the jutsu," she began, and she sighed as the constricting jutsu was released. "Now you may ask me 3 questions before I must go." "Well, my first question, Hano-sama, would be, what are the powers of a phoenix?" asked Sasuke. He wondered how strong they were. "How funny that just so happens to be the first question Saisho, your ancestor, asked me. The powers of the phoenix are many. We are fire spirits. Our first ability is that to be born of our ashes. If we don't die in battle, we are immortal. Our second ability, you are familiar with the fire on my feathers. I can make it as big or small as want, and as hot or cold as I want. The second ability is our ability to breathe fire. The third is that we can fly. The last power is secret to the phoenix, only known to our summoner. It is a last resort, as it can affect our friends. Our shriek can kill any adversary," said the phoenix. She had no problem boasting the strength of her species. "My second question is the difference between black and white summon scrolls." The boy was curious. He had seen the monkey and toad scrolls, and they were different than the hydra and the phoenix scrolls. "The difference is that the white scrolls contain normal animals, and the black scrolls are mythical summons. We mythical summons are far more powerful, as we represent each element. There are only 5 of us. The other summons are very powerful too," said the bird creature. "All right, I have one last question. Will you be my summon?" asked the raven-haired boy. "Sasuke, I stopped being a personal summon after Madara. I just can't do this. I'm sorry, but I think my daughter would be happy as your personal summon," said the Phoenix Queen before she disappeared. She was quickly replaced by a smaller phoenix of about 12 feet in height. "My name is Heishi, and I guess from now on we will be partners," she said. They continued talking for a while, and then she poofed back to her home. Well, that was interesting, Sasuke said to no one in particular. He was happy that he had a strong summoning clan. Flashback end. "Well, I know who I will be talking to tomorrow," Naruto said, and on that note the boys went to their separate rooms for bed. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto wandered forward in what he knew to be his mind. The last time he had been here, he had been with his father. Naruto hadn't spoken to Kyuubi since, so he wondered why he had been called here. He walked into the dojo to see Kyuubi sitting there. "Hello, Kurama-sama," said Naruto. He always wanted a better relationship with the Kyuubi. If you were stuck with somebody, you might as well get to know them. "No need for that, kid. The reason I called you here was just for a chat. For you see, you have now absorbed enough of my chakra to the point I can talk to you without you being here. Also, you can now control my chakra, though you will need a lot of practice. Well, that was it, Naruto. I'll talk to you later. The next day, the sun hadn't reached the sky and the moon still illuminated the village hidden in the leaves when Naruto woke up that morning around 3. He usually awoke at 5 for training, but he didn't want the village seeing what he was doing. He dressed in his new clothes. He wore black ninja pants with an orange shirt. On top of that was the chest piece of his ancestors' armor. He also wore a cloak. It was similar to his father's. It was white, but on the bottom was orange fire and black lightning. On his back it said Naruto of the infinite bloodline. Over these words were his 2 katana forming an X. Naruto walked outside the door. He created 50 shadow clones. They were divided into 5 categories. Hiraishin no Jutsu. The next were trying to incorporate natures into the Rasengan. The next was working on dual blade Kenjutsu. And the fourth was working on ninjutsu. And the last few in jutsu. He was working on summoning. To do the summoning, he went into the largest clearing in the Uchiha Uzumaki forest. He stood there in the clearing, but then he did some hand seals: board, dog, bird, monkey, ram. He then yelled, Niju Kuchios no Jutsu, Hydra, and Toad. He pumped in all of his chakra. Naruto was in awe. In front of him was Gamabunta, which was who he was trying to summon, but standing across from him was the creature called Hydra. The creature in front of him was unlike anything Naruto had ever seen. Its body was covered in scales like a snake, but it had 4 legs and wings. It also had 7 heads. Gamabunta, the Toad boss, and you must be the one who summoned me. The Hydra boss said, looking at Naruto with one of its heads. We, the Hydra, know a lot about you, Uzumaki Naruto, but if I may ask why you have summoned Gamabunta and myself? My name is Ryuoi, the Hydra King, by the way, said the beast who was now named. I summoned you here for the purpose of asking you a question. I am aware I can summon you both. I do want to know, though, will the Toads and the Hydras become the summons of the Uzumaki clan? The boy knew that the Hydras and Toads were powerful and could help him to protect his clan. I will allow this, though the clan can only have a maximum of 10 summoner at a time, and these will also hold the Hydra contract. They will be given the contract by the clan head. These are my conditions if both you and Ryuoi are willing to accept them, said the Toad boss. He liked the idea of partnering with the Uzumaki and the Hydra. I like the terms Gamabunta has put forth and accept them if you can beat me without the help of Gamabunta, said Ryuoi. He thought it was time the Uzumaki were once again feared along with the Hydras, but he would not allow a weak summoner. I accept these terms and thank you both, Naruto said, and with that the smaller of the 2 boss summons disappeared, leaving white smoke. We Hydras are creatures of water. Let us see how you fare against me. 5-headed attack. Water release. Water cannon. Boil release. Giant geyser. Ice release. 100,000 needles. Mud release. Great rift. Cloud release. Heavy fog. Yelled 5 of the heads of the Hydra. He knew this was overkill, but if he could block this attack, he would be the first Hydra summoner in centuries. Naruto's UMS began to spin. There was only one way he could block this attack. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Yelled the boy. A wall of clones with the Baijigen for eyes appeared. The attacks neared. The rift opened, and the clones jumped back and yelled in unison, boil release. Wall of geysers. With that 25 geysers in front of the clones blew boiling hot water. The wall stopped the encroaching attacks. No, Naruto did not spontaneously make a new jutsu. In reality, he used boil release great geyser 25 times, forming a wall of water. You have passed the test, and for that you will have my son as your summon. I must now bid you adieu, the Hydra said, disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Naruto continued his training and ran around the village hidden. It was still dark outside. Naruto sensed 4 chakra signatures following him, and so he stopped and turned around to confront them. Come out, whoever you are, the boy said. He saw a girl step out. She was beautiful, really. She had red triangles on her face. She had long brown hair and dark eyes. She was about Temari's age. He knew her from somewhere, but he couldn't place it. That was until he saw the 3 dogs step out from behind her. The girl was Kiba's 16-year-old sister, and a very pretty girl. Naruto wondered, Kyubi-sama, you think Kiba would kill me for asking out his sister? Knowing the Inuzuka, he would probably try. Kyubi replied. Too bad for him, Naruto thought. I'm going for it. You know it's not polite to stalk people. Naruto finally spoke up. Hana blushed slightly, unknown to Naruto. Don't flatter yourself. I was just training on following people and ambush, responded the girl. She thought Naruto was cute, and really who didn't? The blonde hair and the blue eyes, not to mention he was very strong, something all Inuzukas desired in a mate. Well, I could help you, if you would go on a date with me, Naruto said. And what about your girlfriend? Questioned the girl. She would be nobody's mistress, strong or not. Well, the CRA requires me to have 4 wives. The boy responded, not wanting her to think he was a pervert. Well, when would this date be? Asked the girl. In truth, if he had to have 4 wives, she wouldn't mind going out with him. From what she saw around the village of how he was a gentleman. This was not common among the Inuzuka. In 10 days I'll pick you up. See you then, Naruto said before he disappeared in a Katon Shunshin. The sun was now overwhelming the people of the leaf on this hot summer day. The Suna Genin thought the villagers were crazy if this was hot. The light shined in on the 2 girls sitting inside the Korean barbecue. The 2 girls were in an awkward predicament. 5 minutes ago, the Umbu walked into the restaurant and walked to the table. Naruto had seen them when they arrived. Naruto-sama, your presence is requested in the council room immediately, the Umbu said. Thank you, Naruto responded. The Umbu proceeded to shunshin away. Naruto smiled sadly at the girls. They had just arrived, and he had to go. Temari-chan, Hinata-chan, I have to go. Here is some money for you both, the boy said, and then he kissed both of them in a chaste way before using the right to shunshin away. The 2 girls sat quietly eating their beef and rice. So Hinata, I think we should establish some rules in this harem, said Temari, trying to break the silence. I agree. I think the first thing we should talk about is where we will all sleep. Hinata said she agreed with the rules and the things they needed to discuss about the arrangements. Yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. I guess we could take turns sleeping on the same bed, or just have a really big bed, finished Temari. The girls continued talking while they ate and later went shopping. The girls were friends since they were little after all. They decided whatever happened they would do this together. Naruto landed in front of the Hokage's tower. He moved inside and went into the room that was meant for the council. He entered the room and saw that all the clan heads were there. He sat in a seat across from his brother. They were towards the end of the long table. The Sandaime saw that everyone was here. This was the worst thing he was going to have to say since he announced the start of the 4th Shinobi World War. Are you all familiar with the Kiri bloodline purges? Asked the 3rd Fire Shadow. He received nods all around. While the leader of the rebellion, Meitarumi, has sent us word of a meeting between the Otokage and the Mizukage. They plan to invade Konoha during the last stage of the exams. He gave the room some time to take in this news. Naruto, Sasuke, Team Dojutsu will remain, but you 2 will be promoted to Jounin and Hinata Chunin. You will still take part in the exam, so we don't raise suspicions, finished the Hokage. That means I am getting married in a month and a half, said Naruto in shock. Hokage-sama, Naruto and I now hold 2 of the 5 most powerful summons. We will be sure to summon them that day in preparation for battle, said Sasuke. He and Naruto swore to defend the village like Itachi would have wanted. What are these summons, if I may ask? Questioned Hayashi. The Phoenix and the Hydra, said Sasuke, figuring they wouldn't know about the mythical creatures. You hold the summons of legend. I thought they were mere myth, said Hayashi in one of the few moments he allowed emotion. Naruto-kun was the chorus made by Hinata and Temari as Naruto entered the Uzumaki clan's head house. Naruto was glad to see the girls being friendly with each other. How are my 2 favorite girls? Questioned the boy before kissing them both. He was nervous about telling them of the now soon approaching marriage. Girls, I need to talk to you. Well, the first thing is pretty minor. I asked a girl out on a date. He saw the looks on their faces. They were mad. Of course, you 2 will decide if she is okay or not, he said, trying not to get into too much hot water. Who is this girl, Naruto-kun? Asked Hinata. She didn't want some fangirl tricking Naruto, who was at times a little too trusting and gullible. Hana, Inuzuka, said Naruto nervously. Would they approve, he thought. Well, Hana is nice. I think she'll be fine, Naruto-kun, but she will need to talk to us before the date, said Hinata, worrying about another older girl being with Naruto. What is the other thing you wanted to tell us, Naruto-kun? Asked Temari, who was worried about this Inuzuka girl despite Hinata's statements. Well, this is an A-rank secret. Directly after our exam, Sasuke and I will be Jounin and Hinata at Chunin. Team Dojutsu will remain though. So in a month and 10 days we will be married. Naruto said. He hadn't had a single clue how the girls, but this wasn't it. Well, I guess it was a bit shocking for them, the boy thought. He moved the girls into 2 of the bedrooms, and while they slept he went outside. Gara stood outside of Naruto's home. He could no longer wait. He wanted the Kyuubi's blood. Naruto walked outside and saw Gara. He activated his Baijigen, and that is when he saw it. Gara had 2 seals, one of which was a seal to inhibit the mind. This means Shikaku was in control, Gara thought Naruto. Then he said in a whisper as not to alert Shikaku, mental inhibitor release. Using his Baijigen, he removed the seal. He saw Gara drop to his knees. I guess it worked, Naruto thought. I'm sorry I hurt them, they hate me. Help me, Naruto. Kill me, Gara said. He watched as Naruto came forward and touched his forehead, entering a joint mindscape. Gara, it wasn't your fault. I know it wasn't. I don't hate you. You are and always will be my friend. Also, your brother loves you, and so does your sister. Can you tell me how this happened? Said Naruto. He wanted to know who had hurt one of his precious people. The ninja from Amigakure, he knew I was a Jinchuriki. He trapped me and threatened my family. He then sealed me, and then gave Shikaku control, and I was trapped in my mind watching. Shikaku couldn't become fully formed though, because of when Jiraiya-sama fixed my seal. Finished Gara. He couldn't wait to see Temari and Kankuro. Temari, Kankuro, and a newly freed Gara spent the night talking. They hadn't all spoken in 5 long years. Gara was ecstatic. The 3 of them were ready to become Chunin. Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata walked into the door of the academy. They proceeded to walk up the stairs. They found a large group of genin. They then saw Neji and his team kneeling on the floor. Naruto and his team maneuvered through the crowd that had grown around the trio of kneeling ninja. What they found surprised them. Neji, the proud Hyuga, was on his knees begging to enter a room that said door 301. The door was obviously under Jinjutsu, so the team of 3 backed out of the crowd and made their way into the stairwell once again. They made their way up the flight of stairs and then found themselves entering the actual room 301. Within moments of entering the room, the team heard a screech. The whole room heard it actually. Sasuke-kun, you're here. Sakura shouted with joy as she jumped on Sasuke with her full force. He immediately noticed the eyes of the room shift to himself. Mortified by the display, Sasuke attempted to sound like ice towards the advances of the annoying girl. Sakura-san, it would be wise of you to remove yourself from me. The Uchiha spoke in a voice he used to scare away his fangirls, but because of the situation, he put a little extra in it. He also made sure the entire room heard him. When she did as advised, Sasuke walked away, kissing Ino on the cheek as a greeting. This caused the girl to blush. That made her think more about the decision that was still unmade, but her thoughts were interrupted by her teammate. You're here too, troublesome, Shikamaru said lazily. He was only participating in this troublesome event because his sensei had spoken to his mother before himself. You bet we are, an overly enthusiastic Naruto exclaimed. Who could blame the boy? He was currently stronger than most of Konoha, and he was only a genin. Shikamaru, unaware of all of this, thought Naruto's attitude toward the exams were, well, troublesome. A boy with gray hair tied back into a ponytail then approached the rookie 9. His glasses glared as he approached. Hello, my name is Kabuto. I am also a hidden leaf shinobi, the gray-haired ninja stated, pointing to his forehead protector. You might wish to quiet down. Causing a scene may leave you with a target on your back. The boy said with what the 9 thought was a genuine smile. Have you taken the test before? Asked Kiba. He wasn't trusting of outsiders, a clan tendency, but thought any information could be helpful. Yes, I've taken the test 7 times. Of course, my first time wasn't as a rookie like all of you. You've caused quite the stir with that, Kabuto said, in a long-winded response. Naruto didn't really care for this Kabuto, and so he decided to voice his thoughts on taking a test 7 times and failing each go. You must not be cut out to be a Chunin if you can't pass the test in 7 tries, Naruto said in an uncaring way. He wanted the people around the room to think him to be ruthless. Of course, no one who knew him would see him in such a way. Shut it, Naruto Baka. You'll never be a Chunin. So Kabuto-san, you must know a lot about these exams, right? Sakura said in a way that most would consider screaming at the top of your lungs. Yep, I'll even share some of my info with you, using the Nin cards. Kabuto said, whipping out a deck of cards. On these cards is information on every ninja in this competition. Is there anyone you want information on? How about Gara of the Desert and Naruto and Sasuke of the Hidden Leaf? Kiba said, this was the type of information he had wanted earlier. The boy Gara just radiated power, and he knew that Naruto and Sasuke were super powerful. Oh, awesome, you have their names. That makes it extremely easy. We'll look at Gara first. He is the son of the current Kazekage, and his teammates are his brother and sister. He has completed 8 C-rank missions and a B-rank mission, Incredible, he has never been injured on a single mission. Kabuto said, seemingly in shock. Team 7 smiled, while the rest of the rookies were truly in shock. They couldn't imagine doing a B-rank mission, not to mention never getting injured at all. Now on to the 2 others. Kabuto said, pulling out both cards simultaneously. I have nothing on them other than nicknames. Naruto is the bloodline thief and Sasuke is the last. Everything else is classified. Kabuto finished. He looked at them curiously, as did the rest of the rookie 9. Sasuke looked worried. He realized that Naruto's fight with Deidara must have spread. He worried about his brother's safety. The rest of the room, hearing Kabuto, marked both Naruto and Sasuke for death. They were dangerous and needed to be stopped before they truly became weapons. Little did these outside treats know that Naruto and Sasuke were both weapons already. All of a sudden, a trio of sound ninja jumped out of the crowd and attacked Kabuto. He easily dodged the first strike, however he was hit by another force soon enough, a sound wave. His glasses cracked with the vibrations. We are Dosu, Kin and Zaku of the sound, and put this in your Nin cards. The genin from sound will make Chunin, the boy said, jumping at Kabuto again. The fight started to escalate. A large puff of smoke in the front of the room stopped every action. Quiet down, you worthless bastards, the new ninja said as the smoke dissipated. Behind him stood a few dozen Chunin. The man wore a long black trench coat with a leaf bandana, and his face was covered with many scars. Most of the leaf ninja knew him as Ibiki, the torture and interrogation specialist. I am Ibiki Marino, the proctor for the first exam. Take your seats now, before I decide to start kicking you people out. Also remember this, people will and can die at any point during these exams. Keep this in mind. The Chunin exams treaty stipulates that the ninja of host nations have a right to defend themselves from visitors and may use deadly force if necessary. On that note, he gave a blood-curdling smile and looked around the room. Nobody doubted anything he had said, and no one would retaliate with threat of death. All communication and minor scuffles had stopped. Order had been gifted to the room by fear. Ibiki started handing out the tests, and Naruto realized that none of the rookies, except Shikamaru, could answer the questions. He then looked around the room and noticed that among the contestants were some Konoha Chunin in disguise. Now, I will explain the rules. Questions will not be allowed, Ibiki said as he began to write on the board. The first rule is that you will start off with 10 points. The test is made up of 10 questions, and each question is worth a point. For every question you get wrong, you lose a point. The second rule is that this is a team test. Your entire team will pass or fail based on a combined score of your team. Now, the third rule is that every time you are caught cheating, you will lose 2 points. If you are caught 5 times, your entire team fails. The last rule is that those who lose all their points and those who don't answer any questions correctly will automatically fail their entire team. All right, begin, Ibiki announced. The entire room started the exam, quickly realizing that it contained some extremely difficult questions. Fortunately, Sasuke, Hinata, and Naruto were all built for this test. Using their dojutsu, they began to copy the answers from the ones who knew them. They had all realized that this was the point of the test. Shino had released his insects to gather information for answers, logically double-checking every piece of information he got. Meanwhile, Akamaru was being on a lookout from Kiba's head, scanning the room and barking him the correct answers. Neji had activated his Byakugan, giving him the ability to see through anyone and to look at any test in the room. Sakura, on the other hand, had the intelligence to solve 3 of the questions. Ino used her family jutsu to switch with Shikamaru and use his answers, also giving them to Choji. Look, kid, now that you are done, I need to tell you something. I can feel 5 more people like you in these exams. the demon fox said before being interrupted. What? Naruto screamed in his mind. One girl from the cloud, one boy from the mist, one girl from the waterfall, one from the stone, and one from the sand. Also, before you ask, no, I don't know who they are nor if they are in control, said the QB. She was worried about her kit and his vixens. Before Naruto could respond, Ibiki began talking once again. All right, time's up, Ibiki announced, chuckling inside his head. He would finally get to make them squirm. It is now time for the 10th and final question. By this time, only about 120 of 200 exam participants remained. Everyone who stayed looked at Ibiki in anticipation. They wondered what the question would be. Before I give you the last question, you must decide whether or not to take it. What do you mean choose whether or not we take the question? A certain blonde Sanjinin asked. What happens if we chose not to take it? Well, that is simple enough. In that case, your points are instantly dropped to 0, and you with your whole team fail the test, Ibiki explained. What does that mean? Of course we will take it then. Another test taker shouted, wondering what was going on. It wasn't making any sense. Under these conditions, who wouldn't take it? If you and your team choose to take the 10th question and then answer incorrectly, you will be barred from participating in these exams, remaining a genin for the rest of your insignificant lives. Ibiki said, silencing everyone in the room. That's the dumbest rule I've ever heard. There are people here who have taken these exams tons of times. Kiba shouted as Akamaru barked along with him. Well, I guess you guys have shit luck since you got me as proctor this year. So as I said, if you want to risk your career, just answer it. My test, my rules. Ibiki said. However, I will give you a way out. You can choose not to take it and try again next year if you are not confident. Ibiki sent an evil glare to the Chunin candidates. Now, those of you who do not wish to take it, put your hand up and wait for your number to be called. Then you and your team may leave. I won't take it. A Leaf Ninja said, standing up, and his team were immediately escorted out of the room. His sentiment was repeated throughout the room. Over the next 5 minutes, a total of 30 more opted not to take the final question, leaving 90 genin remaining. Naruto raised his hand, much to the Rookie Nine's shock. Then he proceeded to slam it down on his desk as he stood up, a look of determination on his face. You think you can scare me? I'd like to see you try to keep me a genin, he shouted. Even if you somehow do, I'll still become Hokage. The boy received smiles from both of his fiancée as they laughed internally at his antics. Haha, I'll give you all one last chance to back out. Your life is depending on this decision, Ibiki said, casting one more wave of fear into the genin. However, Naruto had managed to inspire the entire room, and now they had confidence in their eyes. That is an interesting kid. A voice inside a blonde Kumo Kunoichi's head said. Why do I feel like I know him from somewhere? I've seen that stubbornness before. I've seen it many times in Master B. The Kunoichi thought back to the voice. We'll have to be sure to find him in the second stage of the test and see what's so interesting about him. I don't think that's it, but that is beside the point. Looks like my little kitten likes a boy. The other voice in her mind replied teasingly. No, I don't, the girl thought. No one else. All right then, good decision. You all passed the first exam, Ibiki announced to the room, shocking most of them. I congratulate the 90 of you, the 30 teams that pass. Inside his head, Ibiki was thinking something else. This kid is just like his dad. He was the most inspiring person I knew. He will go very far. What? Enraged voices erupted from all over the room. What do you mean we pass? What about the 10th question? Sakura asked, now confused. You could say that your choice was the 10th question, the man said in a rare smile, though it was more of a smirk. Then what was the point of this entire test? Temari asked, being the second hot-headed kunoichi to lash out. The point? Think about it. The first 9 questions served to test your information-gathering skills. Ibiki explained. This test was designed to put pressure on the entire team, as each member would be forced not to mess it up for their team. However, the questions on this test were much too difficult for most genin to answer alone, so everyone came up to the same conclusion. You would have to cheat to score. The whole point of this test was to make you cheat, but without getting caught. A few of the candidates got the purpose right away. Now, mixed into the group, There were a few Chunin who had already taken this exam and knew the answers. This was to help you guys out and to give you accurate information. This is because, Ibiki said, removing his bandana, only revealing a bunch of scars covering his entire head. Sometimes, information is more important than life, and on the battlefield people give their lives to acquire such information. Everyone saw the scars and screw holes on Ibiki's head and cringed a little at the image. Is this what life as a ninja is like? Many in the room thought. If the enemy notices you, there is no guarantee the information you obtain will be accurate, Ibiki stated. Remember this, a proper information can be a powerful weapon for you and your comrades. This is why we had you gather information through cheating. This clearly separated those who did and those who did not have the right abilities. Wait, then what about the 10th question? Temari asked, understanding the purpose, just slightly curious. But the 10th question is the true purpose of this test. The take it or not take it decision. Ibiki paused momentarily. Let's say you become Chunin and your mission is to steal an important enemy document. You don't know the number nor the skill of the enemy. Do you accept the mission? Because you don't want to die? Because you don't want your comrades hurt? Can you avoid this dangerous mission? The answer is no. Ibiki let out a slight grin. Those who aren't willing to put their lives on the line. Those who cling to the uncertain future of there is always next year, and then walk away from their chance. Those pieces of trash who can only make cowardly choices don't deserve the right to become Chunin. That's how I feel. Ibiki said, you have made it through the entrance of the first test. I wish you guys luck. Hell yeah, Naruto shouted out, again receiving smiles from his fiancée. They weren't the only ones as the room was full of smiles of those who happily passed. As everyone smiled, a black pack came crashing through the window along with a poster. A shorter lady with violet hair crawled out, wearing a coat and an orange skirt with mesh underneath. This is no time to celebrate. I am Anko Mitarashi, the second exam proctor. Now I want you maggots at the training grounds 44. Ask your sensei where to find it. If you're late, you're disqualified, said Anko before her body flickered away. After a while, the genin gathered in front of a forest which was surrounded by fences, each panel holding a sign saying, danger, keep out, scaring most of them. Welcome to the second stage of these exams. Right now you are standing in front of the training grounds 44. In the Leaf Village we call this place the Forest of Death, Anko said in a hiss, instilling fear in the hearts of the genin as most of them gulped. All of you will know why this is called the Forest of Death soon enough. All of you will find out why it is called the Forest of Death soon enough. Naruto mumbled to Hinata, making her giggle at Naruto's mocking of the proctor. Anko did not find this amusing, and in response, she threw a kunai at the boy, causing a shallow cut that bled a little. It's kids like you that are the first to get killed. She licked the blood off the boy's cheeks, earning glares from Hinata and Temari. Kids that are cocky. Before Anko could finish talking, she was interrupted. Here is your kunai, a grass genin said with a hiss. Thanks, but if you ever sneak up on me again, I can guarantee that you will die a slow and painful death. Scaring everyone again, and then she spoke again. Before we begin this test, all of you need to sign these forms. As she finished talking, the forms have been handed out to every genin, possible future Chunin. Wait, why do we have to sign these? Questioned a genin from Ring. Because people die in these exams, and without your signature on the form, the responsibility for your death would fall on the leaf, and we don't want that, right? It also helps to prevent wars, said Anko. Now I'm going to explain this test. There are 30 teams. Each team will check into this booth and receive either an Earth or a Heaven scroll. 15 teams get Earth and 15 get Heaven. In the middle of this forest, there is a tower where you have to bring one Heaven and one Earth scroll to. As she said this, every team glared at each other. Now, this area is a dense forest with a river running through the middle. As I said, the tower is located at the middle of the area, about 10 kilometers from each side. Anko said, holding up a map of the area. Around this perimeter, there are 44 locked gates. This will be considered a survival exercise. You may use any weapons or jutsu to complete the task. The only rule is that you cannot open the scrolls until you enter the tower with both of them. Other than that, there are no rules and killing is allowed. Also, there is a time limit. The test lasts 120 hours or 5 days. If you are not at the tower at the end of the time limit, your team is disqualified. Anko finished the instructions. 5 days. What about food? Yelled Choji. Oh, there is enough food. You just have to find it. Finished Anko. With all of that said, the teams checked in and got their scroll. Then they all lined up at their respective gates. Sasuke, how do you want to play this? Asked Naruto as they ran through the forest. Let's make a camp about a kilometer away from the tower. That way we wait and take the scroll from whoever passes by, and after that, we head directly to the tower, said Sasuke. That sounds good to me, Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, said Hinata. They arrived at the spot and quickly set up the camp. Naruto-kun, do you see that? Asked Hinata as she felt something. Naruto activated his Byakugan and nodded. 3 shinobi coming at us fast. Let me see their headbands. Kiri finished the boy. They all prepared for battle. I've been meaning to try out some new earth jutsu. Sasuke smirked. How about I take care of these guys? I've been meaning to test myself against some decent water users. They should suffice, said Naruto. Jiraiya had once said he should be named Konoha's water spirit. He wanted to see how good he really was. Fine, he said, taking Hinata's shoulder and then saying hidden cavern jutsu. The jutsu buried them deep in the ground, safely away from the battle. Naruto made 2 clones that could take a couple of hits and waited for the Kiri shinobi to emerge from the forest. Water style, water needles, jutsu. 3 voices said, out of the trees. Water style, thick skin jutsu, was the reply of Naruto and his clones. Up from the grass rose water that provided a thick coating of water around his body. The hit of the water needles only added to the layer of water around them. The Kiri ninjas jumped out of the trees into the clearing. One was a tall and skinny with short black hair. He wore Umbu-style clothing and had a katana at his side. His hand gripped it now. The next one from the left was short and plump. He had long white hair, and Naruto suspected that Jiraiya would appear the same in one of those chibi manga. The girl that traveled with them was gorgeous. She had curves in all of the right places, shoulder-length raven black hair, and green eyes. Hello, bloodline thief, the girl addressed him. She spoke in a soft, sensual way. Naruto guessed she was trying to seduce him. Hello, Kiri ninja. You should flee, or you may see my bloodlines firsthand. He knew Hinata wouldn't have it, and so he responded in a cold manner. I'm sorry, I don't think we can. I guess we'll have to fight you. The girl responded with a deadly smile. What's your name? Asked Naruto. Hira, she said. Well, Hira, how about this? You pick a type of jutsu, and we can only use that for our fight. Whoever wins gets the other team's scroll. Does that sound good to you? Asked Naruto. He really hoped they picked jutsu. While some may have seen this tactic as cocky, it really wasn't. This type of match stopped unnecessary bloodshed and also limited what one side could see from the other. Interesting offer. I rather like it. I'm assuming no deadly blows? She asked. Naruto shook his head in a quick response. Well then, we accept, and I chose ninjutsu. She finished, and they all took their stances. Water release. Water trumpet, Sueton, Mizurappa. The 3 mist ninja yelled after looking at each other. The attack hit Naruto directly. After that, all that was left was a small puddle of water draining into the dry soil. The Kiri shinobi looked around in fear. All they heard was a voice. Ice style, Ice warrior, Naruto said with a smile. It was a jutsu that he and Haku had created. It was insanely chakra intensive. Haku had declared it a last resort, but Naruto could use it easily. In the clearing, a water-based figure sprung from the grass. It was 10 feet tall and resembled a fully armored samurai with no katana. The idea of the technique was to have a strong clone in the battle to avoid a direct attack. The ice warrior could perform jutsu, and because of his size, the jutsu tend to be amplified in power. It was similar in concept to the famed puppet jutsu of Suna. The 3 Kiri ninja watched the warrior in fear. They had never seen this jutsu, and not just that. Every member of Kiri's team too was a water user. Attacking ice with water usually didn't turn out well. Naruto now preformed his jutsu silently. This took concentration. If the hand signs weren't well executed, the blocky hands of the ice giant might cause them to fail. The giant's hands moved as Naruto's did. The last hand sign was complete, and the Kiri ninja were frozen in fear. Pun not intended. A moment later, the ice warrior opened his mouth, and pouring out of it were thousands of ice senbon. The group of Kiri shinobi dodged, but took hits along the way. The jutsu came to a stop, so they landed. The senbon began to melt back onto the ground, but then something unexpected occurred. Naruto emerged from his hiding place and jumped to top his ice warrior. He smiled at the ninja below, who simply looked at him. "I will give you a chance to surrender, but if you don't, I'll continue my onslaught," Naruto said. Kakashi had always said that mercy was important. "I think," heavy breath, "will keep," heavy breath, going. Hira answered. She wouldn't give up on her team. What she didn't know was that Naruto was about to end the battle in his next move. "Suit yourself," he said, shaking his head. They were probably good shinobi, but not ready to be Chunin. A Chunin knew when to count their losses. She was being prideful and putting her team in somewhat of a dangerous situation. "Water style, berry wall jutsu," said the Kiri team. They assumed Naruto was a direct combat specialist based on his previous attacks. This was their only way of defending. Naruto was planning on trying a new jutsu. "Ice style, seed crystal," Naruto said quietly. Underneath each of the Kiri ni, Naruto had left one ice senbon in place. This ice senbon would act as the seed. Naruto would separate the water from the air around the enemy ninja, and the ice senbon would then allow him to freeze this water, encasing the enemy in ice. This was exactly what happened to the Kiri ninja. Each of them were instantaneously frozen into large blocks of ice. Naruto, no confident the battle was finished, let his ice warrior melt down into the earth below him. He then proceeded to call his friends up from the dirt. "Guys, you can come out now," yelled Naruto loud enough so he could be heard through 10 feet of earth. The two members of Team 7 that had been hidden below the earth made their way to the surface. They surveyed the clearing and spotted the frozen teams. Sasuke placed his palm on his face abruptly. "Naruto-kun, I know you did a great job using only water-based jutsu, but did you get the scroll before you froze them?" asked Hinata quietly. She didn't want to embarrass Naruto. Naruto looked at Hinata for a moment and then looked down in shame. "Well, did you at least find out who had the scroll?" questioned Sasuke in a brash manner. Naruto nodded. He then coated his hand with a layer of warm water. He reached into the ice and removed the scroll from the Hira's side. With that collected, Naruto sealed the scroll into their arm. The trio decided to let their friends from Kiri thaw. The group decided that too much commotion had gone on in the area, so they picked up everything and went on through the forest in search of a new campsite. Eventually, they came upon another clearing. Naruto had used the Byakugan to guide them away from any possible advisories. They set up camp as they had decided to make their way to the tower in the morning. Hinata took the first watch as the two boys were sleeping in their bags behind her. A person moved towards them in the trees. Hinata woke the boys immediately. They all stood guard. The moonlight sky revealed a figure that was crouched on an outstretched tree limb. They waited to hear from the figure before they made any move. "Kukuku, you all look ready for a fight?" asked a grass genin, who now jumped down from the tree. The group followed suit, moving back to keep distance between them and the unknown. "How do you know us?" asked Naruto wearily. "This guy isn't a genin, Naruto-kun. He smells of snake." "I think this man is Orochimaru," finished Kyubi, making Naruto gasp in shock. "Oh, but I make it a point to learn the names of my teammates' students, Naruto-kun," said the grass genin. "I mean, you may all think me evil, but I won't be considered rude." The figure continued. These statements only increased their certainty about his identity. "Orochimaru," whispered Hinata, terrified of the snake man. She was a strong kunoichi, not as powerful as Naruto or Sasuke, but still strong. She knew that the snake Sannin was out of her league, though. "I don't plan on killing you three just yet, so I'll be leaving soon. But before that, I will test you, and then I just want to give Sasuke a parting gift. Binding snake jutsu." Hinata and Sasuke were now stuck in a wrapping of snakes. Orochimaru gave Naruto a grin that filled his entire face. His mouth was closed, but his tongue snuck out like the snake he was. Naruto launched himself toward the snake Sannin, wishing he could have mastered the flying thunder god before the exam. He attempted a full frontal assault nonetheless. He hoped to get the snake off guard with shock value, going for a head kick. "Oh, but Naruto-kun, I was hoping for ninjutsu, not taijutsu. I was watching your previous match, and I must say you were marvelous," said Orochimaru. Naruto appeared behind Orochimaru as he avoided a punch with substitution. Naruto followed through with his initial kick and landed it behind the snake's skull. He found a Hibi Bunshin in the place of Orochimaru. Kukuku over here. Wind release, great breakthrough. The Sannin said, in a clowning sort of way. Fire release, 10,000 fireballs, Naruto countered. The fireballs came out of his mouth and went toward the gust of wind. The attacks canceled since the wind was stronger. Naruto didn't stop there. He ran up the tree to his left and jumped above Orochimaru. Lightning release, giant ball of thunder, yelled Naruto. A ball of lightning grew in his hand to about the size of a grapefruit. Naruto then threw the ball at Orochimaru, who stood below him. Earth release, shield of the twin snakes, said Orochimaru. Before Naruto knew it, they were engaged in taijutsu once again. Orochimaru double feinted a punch and kick combination. This was followed by Naruto being kneed in the stomach. Naruto grabbed his stomach and fell. Orochimaru passed him, biting Sasuke. The boy screamed. The snake jutsu released. The boy fell. Looks like the heaven mark, not surprising. I almost expected more from you, Sasuke-kun. Well, good by Naruto-kun, said the snake as he shined away before Naruto or Hinata could even react. Naruto saw the gift that was given through the evil sealing method. He was sickened by that man Orochimaru. Baijigen, Naruto yelled as he walked toward Sasuke. He looked at the seal and saw it was lacing Sasuke's chakra with Orochimaru's. He activated his Byakugan no Kitsune and sealed of his pathways around the marks to keep it from spreading. He activated his Baijigen again and placed a purification seal on Sasuke's shoulder. It cleaned away Orochimaru's influence. He thought about it for a while. The Baijigen couldn't remove it because it wasn't really a seal, it was just a chakra storage seal, so if he destroyed the seal, the chakra would flood Sasuke's system. He had to destroy the chakra, and he only knew of one thing that could absorb and destroy chakra. Amaterasu, yelled Naruto after he switched to the UMS. He could safely remove the seal. Baijigen, cursed seal of heaven release. The trio ran through the forest. While two of them did anyway, Sasuke was slumped over Naruto's shoulder. They heard a voice through the trees. Decapitating airwaves, said the boy in the trees. The duo dodged. 3 people jumped out from the trees. I wouldn't be going anywhere. Orochimaru-sama wants him dead, and I plan to deliver, said the first one. If he remembered, his name was Dosu. I don't have time for you. Shadow clone Tsukinami, Naruto yelled. This is the world of Tsukinami, and in this world, I control everything. I'm only going to knock you out long enough for us to get to the tower, said Naruto. The world around him was pitch black, and in front of him stood the 3 that had looked into his eyes. He had made it, so they were fighting their precious Lord Orochimaru. Hinata, we need to go, said Naruto as his eyes faded to their normal bright blue. He picked up Sasuke, and they were on their way. They opened the door to the tower. They saw the clue above them and opened their 2 scrolls. Congratulations, you made it, said Kakashi. I was hoping you guys would have broken the record set by Team Minato, but I can see something happened, said Kakashi. We were attacked by Orochimaru. He put a curse seal on Sasuke, but Naruto successfully removed it, said Hinata. That statement led to a retelling of the story. They watched the teams come in, one by one. Temari's team had already been there before them. Afterwards, on the second day, the Mist, Stone, and Cloud teams came. On the late 4th day, all the other rookie Genin teams came, as well as Kabuto's. The 5th and final day came along with the Sound team, along with the Waterfalls one. The second day had come, and Naruto laid in his bed. He was exhausted. Using the Tsukinami on 3 people with an EMS would kill anyone else, but with the UMS it only made you dead tired the next day. Hinata had gone to the hot springs, so he was left in the room by himself. Well, not technically, because a still comatose Sasuke laid in the bed across the room. He heard a knock on the door and said, "Come in," trusting it was someone on Team Baki. I heard what happened, and how could you be so careless, using that jutsu 3 times? And you also used other C and B and a rank jutsu. A mad Temari yelled at him. She was worried sick after she found out about what happened earlier, just like Naruto would have been if something happened to her. But she thought to herself, was she mad or terrified at losing the boy? She loved the boy who saved her brother. She was glad, though, that Hinata had been there to help him, just in case. She knew that trio could take care of them. I'm sorry, Temari-chan, I couldn't lose my brother to him. He was silenced when Temari laid down next to him. Curling up to him, she kissed him soundly on the lips, finally relaxing. I'm sorry, I promise I won't die anytime soon. It was strange. If anyone else said this, it would be just a promise, but when Naruto made a contract, it was like he was signing a contract in blood. They kissed again, deeper this time. Once the kiss ended, a single tear fell from Temari's eye. She couldn't lose this boy who she loved. They fell asleep in each other's arms. The timer stopped. The second portion of the exam had concluded. All the candidates who passed the exam were now standing in a large room. On a stage in front of them stood the Hokage, Proctor, and the Jounin sensei of each team. First off, congratulations on passing the second stage of the exams, the Hokage announced with a happy smile at Konoha's presence in this stage. Wow, 36 participants out of 90. I was expecting to cut them in half, but I was expecting single digits, Anko thought to herself, worrying about her abilities, but she was satisfied, thinking, I guess Ibiki was right. There are some outstanding ones in this group. The candidates looked around to see who else was there. Team Sound looked the worst, having just arrived. If one looked close enough, they could see the wear on the teams who came on the fourth day. Your team looks pretty good, Kakashi, Guy said to his eternal rival. But as long as my team is around, don't expect them to get any farther. Now, it's all about real ability. Well, with youth, there are sweet times and there are sour times, at Kakashi. Huh, said Kakashi, completely ignoring anything Guy had just said. Oh, Guy, you said something? He said aloud. Thinking about his students, time to drop the act, guys. Show them what you can really do. There were 5 people who knew the true strength of Team Dojutsu: Hayashi, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Fugaku, Hiruzen. They hid Hinata's Byakugan, and Naruto only used his eyes outside the village. Sasuke also used Jinjutsu. But this would all change soon enough. Guy turned away and tensed up, clutching a fist. Not bad, Kakashi. Your coolness is the bane of my youthfulness, the man said with no ill intention. The Jounin took a look at their students. Baki looked at his team of sand ninja and noticed that once again, Gara was unscathed. Kurenai noted that her team looked shaken by something. Guy admired the youthfulness of his team. Kakashi, on the other hand, just gave his team the usual smile and wave. To be honest, he had never imagined that his team would not made it this far. No wonder they nominated them, the Hokage thought to himself, looking over the rookies. For all of them to make it is surprising to say at the least. Hokage-sama will now explain the true meaning of the exams and the third test, Anko announced to everyone. Please, listen carefully. The true purpose of these exams, the Hokage said. Think about it. Why do we have many different countries here if each village could hold their own Chunin exams for their own ninja? The Hokage questioned the present genin. Everyone took a few moments to think about what the Hokage was saying. To promote friendship between countries? The Hokage asked. The true meaning of the Chunin exams is not to be confused. This is a competition not of genin. It is a competition of nations. This is a controlled replacement of war. He received many startled looks from the crowd. Hokage-sama, what do you mean, war? Tintin asked the Konoha's leader. If you go back in time, current allies were once enemies who fought each other for control, the Hokage explained. In order to prevent fighting, this is the stage these countries chose to do battle on. That is the purpose of these exams. But isn't this exam only to select people who are good enough to become Chunin? Sakura asked dumbly. It is a fact that this exam decides who has what it takes to become Chunin, the Hokage explained. But this exam has another side, where each country's shinobi risk their own life to protect their land's prestige, honor, and place among the nations. There will be leaders and influential individuals watching the third exam. Many of them come from countries that are not home to ninja villages and are clients of the hidden villages. If the strength of a country is clear in these exams, that country will receive more clients, and if seen as weak, they will lose them. Not to mention, it will send a message to others that our village has much power. A country cannot be strong if it has a weak village. A village cannot be strong if its ninja are weak. The true strength of a ninja is born only through mortal battles, but war is not something that can be taken lightly, and so we have the Chunin exams. Everyone, I am, cough. Hey, Gecko the Proctor, cough. For the third exam, before we can begin, cough, cough. the third round we must hold a preliminary. To decide, who gets to participate in the main event, said the man awaiting the impending backlash from his statement. Preliminary, many of the Chunin shouted. What do you mean? We worked hard, why can't we all participate? Sakura asked. Because the first, and second tests may have been too easy this year. There are, 11 teams left, Hate said. According, to the rules, we may have a preliminary to reduce, the number of participants for the third test. As Hokage-sama said, there are, many important individuals, and time is important to someone like a daimyo. Now that that is said, if there is anyone who feels like they cannot participate in a preliminary match, now, please step forward now, and you will be removed. The man finished. I'm going to quit, Kabuto said. One of Kabuto's teammates opted to do the same. 2 of the waterfall ninja did as well. From the waterfall village, only a girl with mint green hair remained. Shouldn't we remove Uchiha due to the curse mark? Anko whispered to the Hokage. I don't think that will be needed, Kakashi said, joining the conversation. He had his curse mark removed by Naruto. What? Said Anko in shock. She could be rid of the accursed seal once and for all. He'll remove yours later, was all Kakashi said to this. Neji turned to his cousin. Hinata, you should also back out. I must admit that I am impressed you made it this far, but if you continue, something bad will surely happen to you, said Neji. Naruto, who was within hearing distance of this, was a little enraged by Neji's unexplained behavior towards Hinata. Hate walked forward. Unknown place. Gray walls dripped with water. This hole in the earth was hot and humid. Many of the people gathered voiced complaints within their minds, but didn't dare speak out for fear of their leader. If someone had told any of these people that they would take orders from anyone 10 years ago, they would have laughed and then probably killed you. Their leader, though, was a man, no a god with incredible power. So they all sat there in silence. They wore long coats. They ended just above the ground. They were decorated with red clouds. The background was blacker than the midnight sky and absence of the moon. They were a scary group with sinister motives. We will begin the hunt for the Biju. We shouldn't have much of a problem with them, maybe except for Uzumaki Naruto because of his brother and girlfriend. But there is one person who they can't fight. Isn't that right, Itachi? Said the figure in the darkness. Of course, Leader-sama, said Itachi with an emotionless face. We move out in 2 months, the mysterious figure ordered. The group then dispersed. There was no trace that the meeting ever happened. In the Chunin exam tower. The tower, that served as the ending point of the second part of the Chunin exams, was filled to the brim. On the balcony to the right sat the Shinobi Council of Konohagakure. They usually didn't attend preliminaries, but this was a special case, since the heirs to most of Konoha's major clans were participating. On the left side stood the teams and their Jounin sensei. The eyes in the arena were glued to the board waiting for the names of the fighters to appear. The first match of the preliminary round of the Chunin selection exams is Neji Hyuga versus Hinata Hyuga, said Hate, the referee for this part of the exam. Good luck, Hinata-chan, but I know you don't need it to beat Neji-san. Naruto hugged Hinata and let her go down the stairs to face her opponent. The contestants said nothing to those around. 2 of them stood before each other. The genius before the weak heiress. How fitting. But I suggest you to quit so I won't embarrass you in front of your father and boyfriend. Neji said coldly. He had no love for Hinata. In fact, it was more than that. He held nothing but hatred for the girl and her family. You have no idea how wrong you are, Neji-san, said Hinata. She couldn't say that she wasn't terribly sad about this. Her family was torn, and she did intend to fix it eventually. Hayashi was conflicted. The son of his brother hated the main branch and his cousin, but all of his daughters wanted to do was to help him. He was saddened at the fact that his nephew hated him along with the main family, but he was also proud of his daughters for wanting to end the family's disputes. Why did you have to go, Hisashi Itomi? The man thought. Begin, shouted Hate. Byakugan no Kitsune, said the 2 Hyuga. Neji stared in shock as he saw Hinata's eyes after she released the Jinjutsu. You see, Neji-san, this is the new and probably the most powerful Byakugan there is. I'm sorry, as I never wanted to hurt you, nor I never wanted to see you sealed. All I want is you and all the branch members to be free. Just because that seal was put on you, it doesn't give you the right to hate me," said Hinata. "You think your bastard Byakugan is better than the pure Byakugan? I will show you the truth," said Neji. "This is the true power of the Byakugan, you failure." He spat. The idea that this girl had changed his precious Byakugan angered Neji. The two engaged in combat, and it soon became clear that in Juken in its purest form, Hinata was slightly behind. "An heiress that can't master the style, why don't I beat you at your own main branch games," said Neji as he got into the 8 trigrams stance. No Genin alive can beat Neji when he uses this thought Tenten. She loved the boy. Of course she would never say this, but she loved him, even with his hatred. "You are within my range of divination." 8 trigrams, 64 palms, yelled Neji. He was sure this would do it, destroy any confidence this pathetic girl had. "Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms," said Hinata. She easily blocked Neji's movements. It angered him. It became easier to block towards the end as Neji got sloppy with his rage. Neji was angered more upon realizing that Hinata had the perfect defense to his perfect attack. All he had worked for was stripped, it seemed. Hayashi looked on in awe at Neji. He had known of Hinata's attack before. He had mastered the technique without any help from the main branch, the man thought incredulously. He looked on in awe at Hinata too, as she had developed the defense for one of the most powerful Hyuga styles. He hardly ever worked with her. Clearing his thoughts, he stared at the fight, where Hinata focused on new moves for the 8 trigrams. The two of them met, with Hinata blocking every single one of Neji's 64 palms. "Impossible. No one can beat Neji," thought a shocked Tenten. This was half love and half her being cocky. She assumed the genin on her team were superior, and that was the only way they could beat her. She was never one to admit her weakness. "Neji, I don't want to do this. You should forfeit now," said Hinata. She really didn't want to hurt the boy, but she would if she had to. "What are you going to do, failure? Even if you can defend, you still can't win. Or are you going to use the seal on me?" said a bitter Neji. He knew at this point there was a stalemate. "I never even learned how to Neji Nizan. Right on 8 trigrams. 32 pulses," said Hinata. Neji tried to block, but every time he did, he was hurt by the Raiton chakra that shocked him, slowing his reactions. In the end, he laid paralyzed on the floor. She didn't use this with anger, but rather despair. Hayashi was still in shock as his daughter had greatly improved on the 32 palms, and it now caused more damage to the person. It wasn't just that, but the control necessary to do this attack extraordinary. Neji fell to the floor. His mind shattered. He was distraught. He had failed. He hadn't gotten his revenge, but why? He thought to himself, I had Kami on my side, didn't I? And without that final thought, Neji fell out of consciousness. In the ring around the battle floor, there were several shocked faces in the crowd. Tintin looked at Neji's body on the ground. It made her reevaluate how good her team really was. Guy was enamored that his rival's student was so powerful. "Neji, I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, as you are my cousin, and one day I hope you will understand that," said Hinata, though it fell to the ground as an unconscious Neji couldn't hear. She didn't use the full power of the attack, knowing it could seriously harm her cousin. "Winner, Hinata Hyuga," said Hate as she went up to the balcony and Neji was carried away. The crowd cheered for Hinata, Naruto more than the others. Then once the crowd settled down, the names on the screen began cycling again until they reached a stop. "Hyuga-sama, I was unaware of this new dojutsu. Tell me, is it of the same origin as the Baijigen?" asked Shibi. "Ah yes, and as for its abilities, Aburam-sama, it will be discussed in the council meeting after this," said Hayashi. The next match, Omoi versus Choji, went by fairly quickly. Omoi was a ninjutsu specialist, and his taijutsu was fairly good, so it was quite easy for him to use his agility to tire out Choji. "The third match is Akatsuki versus Shino, begin," said Hate. "Earth Cuff's jutsu," said Akatsuki, the jutsu causing Shino to be stuck in place. This was purely a game of time, as Akatsuki had fairly large chakra reserves, and Shino knew it would take a while to suck away his reserves. Akatsuki, on the other hand, was fighting to complete his most powerful jutsu. "Double Earth Dragon Bullets," said Akatsuki, and the dragon took form, and began its journey toward Shino. It was close, and Shino knew he couldn't dodge it or make a bug clone. Akatsuki's Earth Dragon was getting closer to Shino, but then the dragon began to crumble as Akatsuki's chakra was drained. As Akatsuki fell to the ground, exhausted, a ball of dust hit Shino. Aburame Shino is the winner, said Hate as another participant was sent to the medical ward for treatment. Takatsuki forfeited the match immediately after Fu used Bug Bite on him. In truth, he was out of his league, being the weakest genin in IWA, who made it this far only because of his team. Sakura Haruno versus Yamanaka Ino. The two girls made their way to the floor. Ino Pig, I'm going to kick your ass, and then Sasuke-kun will be all mine, said Sakura while Ino giggled. What? Ino Pig, you think you can beat me? Questioned an angry Sakura, upset at being laughed at. Sakura, Sasuke-kun and I actually really care about each other. So even if by some kami-given miracle you manage to win, he and I would still be together, said Ino in an especially uncaring tone that served only to further aggravate Sakura. You stupid bitch, screeched Sakura. So how about we end this talking and get on with the fight? Begin. Just as Hate said this, Sakura ran forward, punching Ino to the ground. Huh. Take that, Ino Pig. Sasuke-kun is mine, yelled Sakura. All of the teams in the stands, including a masked Orochimaru and the Hokage, deadpanned. Did you teach her anything, Kurenai-san? Asked Kakashi. My student was caught in a simple jinjutsu, mumbled the distraught Kurenai. She was terribly embarrassed. The jinjutsu mistress couldn't teach her student jinjutsu. Ino stood with a kunai to Sakura's back. Even she couldn't believe Sakura had fallen for something so simple. The winner is Ino Yamanaka, said Hade, and then Sakura began screaming and yelling about how she should have won until Kurenai hit one of her pressure points, knocking her out. There was a loud mumble of "thank Kami" from the rest of the competitors. The next match is Gara versus Dosu, said Hade. The competitors made their way to the floor, and since they were both silent, Hate continued with begin. Decapitating airwaves, said Dosu, quickly launching his attack. The airwaves met only a wall of sand. Dosu ran up to the wall and said Kayamaizen, but the wall only rippled. Your attacks are useless, said Gara on top of the wall. Suddenly 2 arms came out from the sand, grabbing Dosu. Proctor, I would prefer not to crush him, said a calm Gara. Winner Sabuku no Gara, the proctor said. After that, when the ring was being cleaned, Naruto saw his name pop up on the board. Naruto Uzumaki versus Kiba Inuzuka. In the stands, I must say, I am disappointed. I was hoping to see Naruto-san against one of the Kazekage's children, or perhaps an Odo Nin, said Shibi. He heard some growl. My son won't go down easy. She growled at him. Hayashi and the Hokage smirked, though, knowing this would not be a battle of the ages. I found out you asked out my sister, and for that, I'm going to kill you, and once that's done, Hinata-chan will be mine. Kiba growled, as Akamaru nodded. Well, Kiba-san, what happens between your sister and I is none of your concern. I will ease your displeasure, though. Know this. I will protect Hana because I see her becoming one of my most precious people, said Naruto. Enough talking. Begin the fight, said Kiba in a lower growl. Begin, said Hate. I know how I'll beat you easily, said Naruto as he threw 2 scrolls onto the floor. Everyone now looked shocked. The scrolls opened, and tar came pouring out of them. It was a Kekki Tota that no one in the village had ever seen or heard of. It was made by combining fire, water, and earth. I knew that one day I may have to fight your mother for Hana-chan's hand in marriage, so I began developing tar style for this purpose. It renders taijutsu ineffective, but it also doesn't directly harm the opponent, said Naruto. Kiba and Akamaru were using chakra to stand on the wall, but the floor of the arena was covered in tar. Kitsuga, yelled Kiba as he barreled towards Naruto. Tar release. Hand of the Abyss, said Naruto. Kiba, who was halfway towards Naruto, suddenly crashed into a hand that instantly closed, trapping Kiba and Akamaru. Kiba is trapped and unable to continue. Naruto is the winner, said Hate. Few in art. Reseal, said Naruto, and with a bright white glow, the tar disappeared, leaving groaning Kiba on the floor, lying next to Akamaru. The matches kept going, not many really interested Naruto. He already knew what he was going to be doing for training. He did, however, keep his eyes open, looking for Kekkai Genkai. After a moment, he then heard a very familiar name called. Sasuke Uchiha versus Zaku, said Hate. The two just glared at each other, and Hate continued, seeing they were both ready. Begin. I heard you try to hurt my brother and his fiancée in the forest, said Sasuke, glaring as he dodged Zaku's pathetic attempts at taijutsu. Why does that matter? Asked Zaku in a dead voice, still terrified from his previous ordeal. Well, nobody will ever hurt my precious people, and I know the best way to make it so you will never even try to hurt someone again. You know that technique Naruto used? Well, he isn't even a true master. Tsukuyami. They appeared in the black world. For 72 hours outside, or 700 years in here, there are like 259,000 seconds in 72 hours. 1 second is equal to 1 day. And your punishment is to relive the memories of every person you have hurt, but from their perspective. Said Sasuke, he returned to the real world and left Zaku to live the next 72 hours and 59 minutes of his punishment. Sasuke Uchiha is the winner, said Hate as Zaku collapsed. The rest of the matches were inconsequential and Naruto didn't even bother watching them. Now all of the winners will draw a number to determine the matches of the next round. The winners made a line and drew the small papers. Now please, one at a time, announce your numbers. Enko hissed. 1, said Naruto. 10, Yujito spoke quietly. 8, Kin said. 4, said Utakata. 2, Karatsuchi told them. 3, said Gara. 11, Fu mumbled. Troublesome. 9-inch, said Shikamaru. 5, smirked Sasuke. 7, smiled Ino, glad she wasn't fighting Sasuke. 6, frowned Hinata. She would have to fight one of her best friends. 12, finished Omoi. The preliminary matches are Naruto versus Karatsuchi, Gara versus Utakata, Sasuke versus Hinata, Ino versus Kin, Shikamaru versus Yujito, Fu versus Omoi. You have 1 month to prepare. Dismissed, said Anko. Konoha Council Room. Okay, this meeting is about the results of the preliminary matches as well as the possible invasion. The Hokage said, we will first discuss the invasion and then some aspects of the preliminaries, and then the civilian council will be brought in, said the Hokage. This earned a groan from the Shinobi Council. Truth be told, most of the civilians were fine. As they say, one bad apple spoils the bunch. Well, Sensei, I unfortunately have no new details about the invasion plan, so we will only be able to discuss our defensive plan, said the Sannin. All right, then this is my plan. 50% of each clan will stay and guard their compounds, while the rest of the clan will be given a specific job. The Naras, Yamanakas, and the Akimichis will guard the stadium after the fight begins. The Hyuga will assist them somewhat, but will then go into the village and attack those who have broken through the perimeter defenses. Those will be handled by clanless shinobi, Sasuke-kun, Jiraiya-kun, as well as the Aburame. The Umbu will assist the Hyuga and cover the tower. Naruto-kun and I will be responsible for dealing with Yagura and Orochimaru. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but I have 2 concerns, said Hayashi. He received a nod. Well, I understand Naruto's strength, but do you really think he can defeat the Mizukage? Also, who will be guarding the Uchiha and Uzumaki compounds? Questioned the Hyuga head, as he was concerned for the boy who he thought of as a nephew. Hokage-sama, if I may, asked Naruto. He too received a nod. Hayashi Ajisen, you know that one of my dojutsu's ability is that of sealing. I will be able to seal away Yagura's demon. As for the compound, the Kazekage and his children will be guarding them. This statement received raised eyebrows. He said something along the lines of, I won't have the home of my daughter's future husband destroyed. Naruto clarified. Fine, now let us move on to the preliminaries, said the Hokage. Well, I believe that we have a good chance of winning, said Shibi. I believe so as well, but I know Sasuke, Hinata, and I will have a hard time dealing with Yujito ni, Utakata of Kiri, Han of Iwa, Fu of Taki, and Gara of course. Shikaka-san, Shibi-san, I believe you should train your sons very hard. Shikamaru needs to increase his reserves, and I think Shino should work on seals, since the Jinchuriki's reserves will be too large for his bugs, unless he learns some chakra restriction seals. said Naruto, who received nods. Okay, let us see what it is the civilians want, said the Hokage. The at the door nodded and let them in. They proceeded to take their seats. Hokage-sama, we request the cancellation of the Chunin exams as well as our alliance with Suna, said Hamaru and Koharu in unison. Explain, was all the Hokage said as the Shinobi Council picked up their jaws off the floor. Well, we believe that there are several Jinchuriki other than Kyuubi competing in the exams, including the Kazekage's son, said Koharu. Okay, and, questioned Shikako lazily. We will not have 5 demons running around Konoha, yelled one of the councilmen. I would like to know where you got your hands on this information, said Sasuke. That is simple, answered Haruno. My daughter heard a conversation between Ichibi, Kyuubi, and the Rokubi from Kiri. Flashback. My village will crush Suna and Konoha, said Utakata. Gara growled in response. Do you believe your one tails scares the 6 tails? Asked Utakata just as Gara was about to begin. No, but I do believe that it fears 9, and before you say anything about 5, I'm sure 2 over there would happily help Gara, said Naruto in his trademark matter-of-fact way. And flashback. We refuse to ally ourselves with Suna and the Ichibi, and we don't want the 6 and 5 in our village, said Haruno. If you ever refer to Gara as Ichibi again, I will kill you, said Naruto in a growl. Arrest him, said Koharu. The guards of the elder went to arrest the Naruto. Sasuke sent 2 kunai into the Umbu's legs. As an Umbu, you take orders from your captain or the Hokage, said Sasuke coldly as the civilians shook off their shock. How correct you are, arrest Koharu and those Umbu, said the Umbu commander. This meeting is dismissed. Team myth change and come back, said the Hokage. 10 minutes later, Hokage's office. The Hokage stared in front of him, waiting for the 2 members of Team Myth. The 2 Umbu shined in, using the blaze and ice versions of the jutsu. Good to see you out of that stuffy meeting, Naruto, Sasuke, said the Hokage. What did you want to see us for, Hokage Ajisen? Asked Toad, aka Naruto. Well, Naruto, it seems you and your brother made it into Ames and Iwa's bingo book a couple of missions ago, said the Hokage as he showed them the page. Name, Uchiha Uzumaki Naruto. Alias, Konoha's limitless bloodline. Rank, be a rank Chunin. Gender, male. Date of birth, October 10th. Age, 13. Height, 5 feet 5 inches. Weight, 125 pounds. Hair color, blonde. Eye color, blue/changes with dojutsu. Affiliation, Konoha. Summons, Toad. Bloodlines, unknown dojutsu. Possible ice, Sharingan, crystal, Byakugan. Known affinities, wind, water, fire, possibly others. Personal note, much is unknown. There are reports of the ability to copy bloodlines. Adoptive brother of Konoha's crow Itachi Uchiha, as well as the last Uchiha Sasuke Uchiha. Note of engagement. Use extreme caution when engaging in ninjutsu battle or taijutsu battle. He appears impervious to jinjutsu. Do not show him your bloodline. Approach only with superior numbers. Teacher is Sharingan no Kakashi. Flee on sight when with Sasuke Uchiha, Hinata Hyuga, and Hatake Kakashi. Name, Uchiha Sasuke. Alias, the last Uchiha. Rank, be a rank Chunin. Gender, male. Date of birth, July 23rd. Age, 13. Height, 5 feet 6 inches. Weight, 120 pounds. Hair color, black. Eye color, black/changes with Sharingan. Affiliation, Konoha. Summons, unknown, possibly a crow. Bloodlines, Sharingan. Known affinities, wind, earth, fire, possibly others. Personal note, much is unknown. There are reports of a higher-level Sharingan. Brother of Konoha's crow Itachi Uchiha, as well as adopted brother of Konoha's limitless bloodline Uzumaki Uchiha Naruto. Note of engagement. Use extreme caution when engaging Sasuke in ninjutsu battle or taijutsu battle. He appears impervious to jinjutsu. Do not show him secret jutsu. Approach only with superior numbers. Teacher is Sharingan no Kakashi. Flee on sight when with Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, Hinata, Hyuga, and Hatake Kakashi. The Hokage flipped the book page. You are also the first team to appear with an SS ranking as a team since Ino Shikacho, and that was when they were Jounin. If you guys keep improving like this, you will be called the Neo-Sanin, he said, showing them the last book page. Name: Konoha Jinin Team 7. Uchiha Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke. Hyuga Hinata. Hatake Kakashi. Alias: Team Dojutsu. Konoha's limitless bloodline. The last Uchiha. None. Sharingan no Kakashi. Rank: SS rank Jinin Team. Gender: 3 males 1 female. Time since creation 6 months. Age: 13. Jinin, 27 sensei. Height: -5 feet 5 inches. -5 feet 6 inches. -5 feet 4 inches. -5 feet 9 inches. Weight: -125 pounds. -120 pounds. -115 pounds. -148 pounds. Affiliation: Konoha. Summons: Toad, possibly Crow, none dog. Bloodlines: unknown Dojutsu. Possible Ice, Sharingan, Crystal, Byakugan, Sharingan, Byakugan, Sharingan. Known affinities: Wind, Earth, Fire, Water, and Lightning. Personal note: great teamwork. Note of engagement: flee on sight. I just wanted to keep you all updated. The real reason I called you both here as Umbu is that I have a mission for you, said the Hokage. There will be injuries during the Chunin exams and the event afterwards, so I want you two to bring back Tsunade. She will also become the Godame Hokage. You have 3 weeks. The other reason I am sending you is that I don't want anyone spying on your training this month. Say your goodbyes, you leave in an hour, said the Hokage. He paused to make sure he didn't forget anything, then said, "Oh, I almost forgot. We have found that there is a world tournament in poker and sake drinking contest in Edo Castle next week, so you'll probably want to go there," said the Hokage. 2 weeks later, Naruto walked out of the village. He wore his usual attire. He had requested access to his father's old training ground. The training ground had seen the creation of the Harishin as well as the Rasengan, and now it would see the creation of the 5 perfect elemental Rasengan, or at least as many as he could make in a month. He would have normally trained in the Uchiha forest, but there were too many distractions, namely his 2 beautiful fiancées. Naruto sprinted to the training ground, wearing gravity seals at 10 times normal gravity. He decided that this would be the best physical exercise for him. He arrived. The place was 2 miles outside Konoha, and it was a simple log cabin on the outside. He went inside the cabin and proceeded to the back door, where he cut his finger, smearing his blood on the knob before slowly opening the door. It opened into a stairway, which led to a simple wooden door. He opened it and nearly collapsed as he entered. He saw the sides of the room had seals, gravity, and chakra seals. Basically, the place was designed so it put your body in a chakra-depleted and exhausted state. It did this so you had to have perfect chakra control to perform high-level jutsu.